assignment that you did last week. Since it's fresh in your mind, it's just a better time to revise it quickly so that you don't have to do it 2 weeks from now when I give it back to you. Just as an aside, relational database, I put the marks up. So as you do an assignment, I'll try my best to mark it and give it back to you maybe within 2-3 weeks, right? That's what we're allowed, and I'll try my best. With so much going on, it could be here a day, here and so on. And I don't see the other sections at the end of the week. So it's kind of when the week finishes, from that point onwards, you can expect back to get some feedback. Okay, so we'll discuss the feedback today in the sense that I don't have to repeat it, and you will forget it. I'm sure you will forget it after 2 weeks. Go through it, and if there are any questions that you had in mind that day or you have today, please ask. Okay. You were supposed to create an employee class. I had already told you what I wanted in it, so you didn't have to think about attributes or anything or methods. It was all straight up. You were asked to create 2 instance variables in it and some methods. So I'll go through the employee class. Keep in mind when you're creating classes, you have to remember a class is a definition that defines the characteristics or the attributes of the entity you're describing and the methods. What can you do with that entity, right? So if you have that picture in mind, you can kind of start laying out the structure. So the attributes or the characteristics of the entity you're defining, and then the methods that go with it. So how I look and what can I do? Okay, keep that in mind. So you were supposed to write Java documents in both classes. Employee was more important, the other is a tester, but I wanted you to write Java documents in your classes, and then I had given you the description and the characteristics. Everything was given. You didn't have to put your head. So I had asked you to create 2 instance variables. There could be more. An employee has a name, an employee has a monthly salary, an employee has a SIN number, an employee has a date of joining. There could be much more. An employee could have a department, an employee could have a status, full-time, part-time, the department to which it belongs. There can be many things that can go with an employee. I'm thinking employee of the college, but if it is just an employee, definitely every employee has a name. Every employee has a monthly salary or daily salary, something to do with salary. Every employee needs a SIN number to work and so on. So you can kind of think of as if I don't give you anything, I'll say, okay, define at least 4 attributes or 5 attributes. So you should be able to kind of think what goes with an employee. That's your job 1. That's how you describe the attributes. So I had said that each employee has a name, and I gave you the types also. I said it was a string. So you didn't have to think about that too, though it was quite easy. And then I said that the monthly salary was a double. So you have to go double, data type, no ints, nothing. I wanted a double. Okay. Now, keeping in mind that we're keeping our data private, and that's what you will all follow as long as we are doing this class. You can change it as you go to a new class. You can change it when you do a job, whatever. But in my class, we are kind of sticking to data hiding, right? So data will all be private unless I say it can be public. Okay. So private is something I said you should be using the right scope specifiers. And for this assignment, I think you had the marking scheme also. Pay attention to the marking scheme. If you don't have it 100% complete, you come down 1. It could be partially complete. It could be almost complete. And you will lose marks unnecessarily if you maybe forget to put private. You know what I mean? So be careful when you are doing these things. So 2 instance variables have been defined. Both are private. One is string, the other is double. The name of these variables were also given to you. So you again didn't have to think a lot. I said call them employee and monthly salary. Please follow naming conventions. Names of classes start with a capital letter, and if you have more than one, employee details or employee whatever, then you capitalize first letter of every word. This is called Pascal naming convention. So names of classes follow Pascal naming convention. And I'm very particular about naming conventions. Try and go and Google and read how important naming conventions are. Go educate yourself. Like I'm trying to tell you they're important. If you don't take my word for it, perfectly fine, go and read about it. So they are important. And then the names of identifiers. This is an identifier. You're identifying something. This is, so they follow camel case convention. Camel case convention means the first letter of the first word is small, and then there onwards, second word, third word, fourth word, the first letter is capital. So you can think of like a hump of a camel. Maybe you can remember it that way, but you will have to remember these conventions. You have to know what they are called. So this is following Pascal naming convention, and identifiers, method names, they follow camel case convention. Constants are written all in uppercase in Java, all uppercase. These are constants, right? Why is it a constant? Notice how I've made it final. So anything that comes with the word final is a constant. And I have made it static, that is, it belongs to the class. When it belongs to the class, then every object does not have a copy of it. So I used constants. If you did, good. If you use the magic number 12 in your code, that's fine too. I won't dock marks for it. But make a habit that you create named constants for values that are constant in your code. Then they make sense. So now I have said total months is equal to 12. We all understand that I'm talking about the months in any year. Right? We all understand what it means. If I was doing tax, I would say tax rate. So this is just to give you an example of a constant. Some of you may have done it, some of you, that's okay. So as I said, I didn't ask for it, but it depends on you how better you want to make your code. So the minimum was this. So all data will be hidden. So kind of keep in mind that when data is hidden means you cannot see it. It is not visible. There is a black wall in front of it. So the data is hidden behind and the methods are in the front. So you can think of as methods being the buttons that you use. When you go to get Coke or whatever chips, the data is hidden from you in the sense it's inside. You can't unlock it and take it out. You know what I mean? Like it's hidden. So if you want to have a packet of chips or you want to have Coke, you have to press a button, what you need. Then you have to put in money. So like a button to press, here is my money, and then comes out your data, right? Then comes out your chips, pack of chips or Coke, whatever you're drinking. So keep in mind that data hiding is a principle of object-oriented design. We hide our data so that the world cannot see it, and we create our methods, which you can think of as buttons. Oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. Whatever is visual in your mind, keep it that way. And therefore comes the use of set and get methods in your code. So the set and getter, the setters and getters, accessors and mutators are written, keeping in mind that since the data is hidden, if you want to change it, how will you change it? You have to have a button called set, which will change it. If you want to look at its value, since its value is hidden, how will you look at it? By the get method. And again, there is no hard and fast rule at all that every hidden variable will have a get method and a set method. Maybe you don't want to change it. Once you assign a SIN number to an employee, you don't want to change it. It doesn't make sense changing it. So there won't be any set button to change. This information is secretive. You don't want to tell it to the outside world. So there will be no get method. So you as a programmer decide whether you will require set and get methods with a particular instance variable. It's not hard and fast rule, write it with everything. And that's why we hide the data. If we had to, if every instance variables had to have a get and a set, then we'll say just make it public. Why bother? Anybody can change it, anybody can see. But keep in mind, public doesn't mean, just means the whole wide world. So you have to kind of restrict your, what is available outside my class. So inside an object, in a car, you don't go and open the bonnet to kind of change the, or brake or change the speed of your car. You don't do it. You have buttons outside, you have interface outside. If you want to increase the speed of your car, you press your foot on the accelerator. If you want to stop your car, you press your foot on the brake. So the data inside, the circuit inside is hidden from you. And since you're allowed to change the speed and stop and start the car, you need the brake and the accelerator, right? Otherwise, those wouldn't have been given. Okay, so now so you have to keep that in mind. The use of hiding data, the use of getters and setters. Okay, if you don't have that in mind, then you'll say, oh, it's useless. Why am I doing it? So these were the two instance variables. So every employee will have a name and every employee will have a monthly salary. It could have been anything else. I stuck to it. Okay. Then I said, write the empty constructor. This is called the default constructor. It takes no parameters and does nothing. I may have said, write the constructor and set your name to Anju and monthly salary to 1,000. I could have done it, but that's not how you create employees. An employee object is created, and then you give the name, and then you give the salary. I could have done, you don't hard code. Not every employee is called Anju, and not every employee's monthly salary will be $1,000. So therefore, you don't do anything in it. But the use of this empty constructor is that you can create an object of the employee class. The two instance variables automatically will be initialized to 0 and null. I'll put this solution on Blackboard if you like, so you don't have to concentrate on me talking and typing it in. You can just concentrate on what we are doing. That way, at least you will listen, right? So I'll put it on Blackboard. Just remind me, I will. So this was the empty default constructor. Okay, it's called the default constructor, which is automatically present in every class if you do not include a constructor. But I said include another constructor. So if I want another constructor, I have to include the default one myself. Otherwise, you don't have to. Every class in Java has a default constructor of that nature. Takes nothing, does nothing. The does nothing is basically initializing the instance variables to default values. And then I said you need a constructor that takes 2 parameters and initializes your name and your salary to the 2 parameters. What is a constructor? A constructor makes or constructs an object. And once you construct an object, what do you want to do? You want to set its instance variables to some values. That's your step number 2. So create the object and maybe let it have its default values. Good enough. Create the object and set all its instance variables or some of its instance variables to some value. And therefore, we pass parameters to constructors. If you didn't want to set the monthly salary, you didn't need the second parameter. Name will be set and everybody's monthly salary will be 0 to start. You could have done that, right? So you decide again as a programmer that when the object is created, what do I want to set it? What do I want to set it? You decide. So when you buy a car, right, you say, oh, I want a car of Audi or whatever. You kind of have that in mind. So this is the make I want. This is the model I want. Do I want an electric one? Do I want? So you decide. So you can set those attributes. So when you go to buy a car, you can tell the car dealer, these are my preferences. These are the attributes. And he'll say, okay, what about color? You say it doesn't matter. Maybe you have no preference. So in the color, maybe he'll put a default color of black, or maybe anything that's cheap, white, whatever is cheaper. He can ask you, what price are you looking at? You say it doesn't matter. I'm just looking for Audi or whatever. I'm just looking for Mercedes or whatever. That's what I need. So price is not important to you. So price input himself, okay, or herself. So the constructor creates an object, allows you to create an object and initializes any instance variables that you want to do. An object that has all its instance variables to null or 0 is kind of useless. You will have to change its instance variables. Otherwise, that object is useless. I mean, it has data, but all its data items are null or 0. What will you do with such an object? Nothing, right? So at some point, you will have to change the data in the object. You can do it in the constructor, or you can do it using the set method that allows you to change the data in your instance. So this was expected. The second constructor you had to write was taking 2 parameters. Why 2? Because I had 2 instance variables, one to set the name and one to set the monthly salary. I had said, please call the set methods in your constructor. I don't want you to repeat code anyway, right? So I call the set name method and I call the set monthly salary method. Now, what does set name do? Set name basically takes a parameter. What you can call it anything you like, but please give good descriptive names. So it takes a parameter of type name, of type string, and then sets and initializes the name of the object. Remember, every object has a name inside it and has a monthly salary. So the set name method, when you press that button, it will say, "Ding, my name is Anju." It will take that Anju from you. That's where it is coming. It will take that Anju from you and give it to the name inside the object. That's the use of a set method. That's why we write set methods. To initialize, why I say initialize, because the constructor calls it, or to change the value of an instance variable. So every method has a job, and you have to know which ones do I need and which ones don't I need. Here it was so straightforward. I asked you, but if I leave it to you, I say, here, create a class for car. You'll have to think, what are the attributes I need? What are these setters and getters I need? And what methods do I need? And you will have to come to that stage. Nobody will tell you what it contains. You will have to think about it. Okay, so that was set name. So remember, all set methods will always take a parameter, because what is the job of a set method? To change the value inside the object. And how will it change it until you give it a new value? So that new value comes through a parameter. Okay, and one set method does one job, sets a instance variable. So the set name does that. What does set so this is get. I wanted getters also. Get returns you the value, shows you the value inside the object. So what are you saying? You're saying return the name variable inside my object. Because it is hidden, there is no other way to see it. So if you decide that, yes, it is available to the outside world, then you say, oh, how do I see it? It's behind a wall, a black wall. I can't see it. press the button, get the name, get, and it will show you the name. Kind of think, oh, it returns the name to me. So you can see it. That's what get methods do. So understand what these methods do. Don't memorize them. It doesn't make sense. This is not the end of the world. This is the beginning of programming. So I'll help you, and then I'll say, now you do it. So you have to decide quite a few things, and you won't be able to unless you understand what is their usage. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Okay. The examples are small, but the concepts are clear. So that's what I need you to do. Clear concepts, clear foundation. Then you can build anything on it, right? Once you have the foundation. Now the set monthly salary, again, it's a set method. So it will take a parameter from you, right? It will take a parameter from you. What kind of parameter will take? The type of the parameter will be the same type that's whose values you want to set. If you want to set the name of a person, which is a string, the value that you pass, it won't be 1, 2, 3. It will be a name, it will be text, right? If you want to set the salary of an employee, the parameter that you pass will be of type double. Why? Because the salary is double. That's how you decide the parameter type, right? I want to set the name, I'll have to take in text. I want to set the salary, I have to take in double. I want to set the age, I will have to take in an int. I want to set the grade, I will have to take in a character, A, B, C, D. That tells you what's coming in, because that's what you have to set. That's what you have to change or initialize. Okay. So now here I said do a little validation. I said if the salary was greater than 0, you don't have to write 0.0. You can even write like this. So if the salary is greater than 0, then take it from the user. The method takes it and initializes or sets the monthly salary inside the object. Okay, so anytime you have to talk to the object, you have these buttons or these methods through which you talk. Kind of think it of that way. So how I look and what can I do? And that what can I do are nothing but buttons. Think of, oh, I have to press this to get it done. I have to press this to get it done. Okay. So, and if not, then what happens? Nothing. Leave it unchanged. I said leave it unchanged. Only change it if it is greater than 0, right? Maybe you wanted to throw an error message. You wanted to say, how can salary be negative or 0? You could, but I said don't do it. We haven't gone at that point. So don't do anything. It doesn't need an else. So whatever is inside its value, if salary was 0, it remains at 0. If salary was 1,000, it remains at 1,000. It remains at its previous value, whatever its values. So if it is greater than 0, change it, else don't do anything. So that's your set salary method. So notice I've done my validation in the set method and I call it from the constructor. I don't repeat these two if I don't repeat this statement in my constructor. So that's another use of set statements. You should do all your validation in the method so that you can invoke it from wherever you like, from the constructor, from the outside world, and it does all kinds of validation. Okay, so that's the set method. And then there was a getter. Getter again does what? The get method, therefore it has no parameters. It shows you what's inside the object. So if you say, what is your name? I say Anju, but I'm just telling you what's inside me. You don't have to give me anything. Like I'm not expecting anything from you. I'm giving you information. So the getters give you information. They get the information out of the object. So their parameter list will always be empty. It makes no sense of having anything, but they will always have a return type. And the return type will be of the same type that the data that you're trying to extract. So if you're saying, what is your name? You're expecting text. You're not expecting 12. You know what I mean? If you're saying, what's your monthly salary? You know that, oh, some number will come back. It could be an int. It could be a double. If you're saying, what's your age? You're not expecting me to say hello. Right? So the return type of a getter will be the same type as the type of the variable whose value is being shown to you. Whose value am I showing? Monthly salary. So monthly salary is a double. So what will be the return type? Double. Set methods have no return type because set methods don't return anything. They do a job of setting a value. You could return a Boolean. Oh, I've done it. That's okay. But usually they don't. So you could say return true. And it will say I've done my job. Return false. I've not been able to do my job. So, but usually set methods return types are void and get methods return types depends upon what are you giving back. And we don't do any printing in class definitions. No printing. Don't say system out println monthly salary is nothing. I'm not asking it. Even if I wanted to give a message back, I would have made this a string and I would have said return the monthly salary is, and I would create a string. Don't do any printing in class definitions. It's not done. It's done in applications at the front end. The back end just does the job. Okay. Okay. Now I have written this method of raise Some of you may have written it, some of you may haven't. And that's okay. I didn't say how to give a raise to a particular employee. I just said give a raise to employee 1. But if you include a raise salary method in your class, what are you expecting? How much raise do I give to the employee? 10%, 20%. So I've said a double, and double, if it is a 10%, I'll pass it a value of 0.10. If I want to give a 20% raise, I'll pass a 0.20. So I'm passing it as a double. You can pass things as percentage. You know what I mean? You'll say, oh, it can be an integer, but what if you want to give a raise of 2.5%? So I assumed it would be a double. Okay. So the raise I take from the user, whoever is pressing the button. Give employee 1 10% raise. So what comes to me is that raise, 0.10. I just called it raise because it was descriptive. And then what do? I write it in one line. You can kind of divide it. See, what do? I get the monthly salary of the employee. Here, I could have used monthly salary as a variable, but I don't. I don't do this. See, I don't do this. And again, these are programming principles. I don't say set the salary. I could have done it, but I don't, just because I want to be sure that I could have even done this. I could have just said, take the monthly salary, take the previous monthly salary of the user, of the employee, and multiply by 1 plus raise, since I have that raise. I don't know what it will be, but anyway, I could have done this. So I'm using monthly salary. Yeah, no, again, wrong, S capital. Talking and typing. I could have done this. I take the employee's monthly salary, I multiply it by 1.10, assuming raise was 10%, and then I put it back in the variable. I avoid this. Why do I'm inside the class? Why am I using the getters and the setters? 1, remember, set was doing validation. So if by mistake, if by mistake I raise is a negative value, you gave in something, you made some mistake. It was a typo or it was a calculation mistake. It will catch it if I do a set. It will never let salary to be given a negative value. Never. So suppose you gave in a value of 100 to raise, thinking, oh, 100% raise. You made a mistake, you just said 100. And then instead of 1 plus raise, I had written 1 minus raise. You make typos, it would become minus 99. And then minus 99 multiplied by salary would become negative. And I haven't done any check. I'm just saying, oh, raise, okay, here, add 1 to it. Do you know this math? All I'm doing is I'm adding 1 to it so that it becomes 1 plus something. So if it's a 10% raise, the salary is going from 1 to 1.10. That's why I've added it to 1. That's how you multiply. That's just simple math, right? But I didn't choose to do it this way because what if I make a mistake? Somebody gives me a value of raise that is incorrect. Something, anything, right? They give in a value of minus 9.6. They can do it. Who stops it? But the class should ensure that, so of course you may validate it on the front end, but you're not relying on the application being written on the front end. You don't know who will use your class. So you are taking care that your class definition is defensive. You're taking care that nothing goes wrong. So instead of doing this statement, which I could have done, but I highly recommend not doing it, I call the set method to change this value. Now what does set need? The new value. And how did I get the new value? I again use the get method. I just use get. You could have used monthly salary. I take the monthly salary, I multiply it by 1 plus raise, and then I put it back. Important. Not important at all to put get here. I could have just taken the variable and multiplied it, but I chose to show you that you can use getters. Remember, we were talking about it last week also. I said it's an overkill sometimes. I feel it's an overkill, but usually in toString, we will always use gets. And this is another place where get would, you're saying, I want to be sure I'm taking the right value. Though, of course, monthly salary is also the right value, you know. So that's it. So here, I said get it. So notice what I'm doing. I'm saying get it. So you get the monthly salary, which is the monthly salary. You multiply it by 1 plus raise, and then you invoke the set method to change it. So that if anything goes wrong, the salary does not change if the calculation makes it negative for whatever reason. You could have added more to it. You could have added an if statement. If raise is greater than 0 and less than, you say less than what? I'm assuming 100% raise is the maximum, but people get 100% raise, and it's kind of in the air, but you could be getting 500% raise, but that's kind of not true, but it could be. So you can always test if raise is greater than 100. So you can add whatever you like, you can make it more and more and more defensive. So the raise value must be positive. Only then the user can get a raise. Otherwise, how will the user get a raise? You know what I mean? Employee cannot. So add it. All you have to do is add it. So how do I add it? I just say if the value of raise is greater than 0, then it makes sense. Then I do my job. I'll put it in brackets just because I have two statements, though one is commented out. So that if you comment one uncomment, you don't. So I wouldn't prefer you doing this at all. I wouldn't. I would prefer you to use the set method to change the value of an instance variable whenever and wherever. Always do that. So call the set method. See, this is another place I've called the set method. I called it from the constructor. I'll definitely call it from my application, and I'm calling it from here. So I'm safe. I'll never make a mistake. So please, you can make, I'll put this on Blackboard. I'll say, please use set method because the set method has validation. So if anything goes wrong, it will catch it. And I added, I said, if raise is greater than 0, you'll say, what if it is less than 0? Ignore it. We'll learn how to give back messages. I don't want you to print a message here. I don't want to say else system out println and the raise cannot be negative. We'll start throwing exceptions. We did throw an exception last week, I think, in one of the examples I was doing in my what is it, calculator. I did. So we'll do more of it. We'll learn how to do it. But don't do it. For now, ignore it. So at least you're not doing a wrong thing. You're not telling the user, but you're not doing anything that is erroneous. So I just added if raise greater than 0. It just came to my head right now, and I did it. So as you write, you can improve it however you want, whatever makes sense. So what did I do? I said get the monthly salary of the employee. I'm right in the class definition. I don't have to say get. I can use the variable monthly salary, but I just showing you it can be done. Then I multiplied it by 1 plus raise. So I gave him a new salary, and then I set it back using the set method. So even inside the class, I'm taking precautions that I don't go wrong. So definitely I would like you to use the set method. Get depends on you. If you don't want to use it, that's okay. You could have used monthly salary. But anytime you change any of the instance variables, use the set methods, and you'll always be safe. That's the use of set methods, right? So I've written it here. If you've written it in the class definition, good. If you have done the math in the tester, in the application, that's also fine. I'm not docking marks anyway. But realize that every employee will get a raise sometime or the other, 1 year from now, 2 years from now, somewhere. I mean, it's a valid method. It's not something that may not belong. It could. It is the right place to put it. An employee gets a raise. So what's his new salary? Get the value of raise, do the calculation, and change his salary. His salary changes. Right? So I added this raise method. This was asked of you, but again, as I said, it has not necessarily to be here, but this is its right place. Employees will usually get raise. And then I said, write the string method, the toString method I said, and I said, please format, show me the name of the employee and show me his or her annual salary. I didn't want you to return the salary. I wanted you to return the annual salary. So what do I show? Again, I could have just written name here, but toStrings, it's kind of a convention that the toStrings will use getters. It's just a convention. So I don't avoid it in toStrings. I think, okay, that's fine. It's not an overview. But I avoid it in accessors and wherever else. But anytime I want to change, I'll use the set. So I get the name of the person. I say Anju has a monthly, oops, message is wrong. The message should say annual salary because this is your annual salary, right? So Anju has an annual salary of, and notice I formatted it because I wanted you to format it. I said annual salary with 2 places after decimal and a dollar sign. So I put the dollar and then I say 2 places after decimal. We've done percentage point to F. And the percentage S is new, but it's not a rocket science. If there is something for F, there will be something for string, there will be something for INTs, right? Look it up. You can look up the API. You could, but if not, you could always ask me. So and if you did, you just wanted the name there, that's okay too. But that's how I want it formatted. I said I want to see 2 places after decimal. And I want the dollar sign. So that's how you format it. And then I say return that string. So the toString method is overriding the toString of the object class, and it usually gives you the information inside the object. Maybe not all, but here it was all. It was the name and the monthly salary, but information inside the object. Okay, that's your employee class. That's all that was required. Doesn't even take 15 minutes to code. Getters, setters, 2 constructors, and that's it, and a toString. You will get to it. You'll become better and better. If you took an hour. When you become better, you'll use 40 minutes. You'll become better, you'll use half hour. And that's what we are trying to progress. Right? I've been doing it for a while, so it's okay for me. But you are new, so don't worry if it takes an hour or an hour and a half. You will improve. But you can only improve if you make the effort. If the effort is lacking on your part, you can't blame anybody for it. Neither the teacher nor the circumstances. It's you who have to do it. So please work hard. If you want to get this course, please work hard. You have to. And how? Ask for tutors. Ask for my help. Ask for help from your friends. But not when an assignment is on your head. Ask it when you want to learn it, right? When an assignment comes, then everybody starts asking. That's not how it is. That's not how you learn. You're only asking because it's marks. You're not learning. You're not doing it for the purpose of learning. So I leave it to you. I'll always be here to help you, but you need to approach me. Right? Okay, so that was your employee class. Any questions in the employee class? Or are we all okay? You can come up with any kind of questions, doesn't matter. No question is stupid. Every question is viable. Are we okay? So that was your employee. Let's look at the test employee. Instructions were given to you, line by line, you just had to write them. Here the requirement was everything comes in the J option pane. Everything. No scanner, no system out printlns. So if you don't need a scanner, why are you declaring a scanner? Why are you saying I need a scanner? That means you don't understand the question. So I don't want to see a scanner. I don't want to see anything extra, guys. That tells me you don't know what you're doing. So I said everywhere use J option pane. It should have a good title. I said all titles should be good. Instead of the default input and message, I want to say input name or employee information, something different, so that I know that you can use the constructor, the right constructor. Messages come through J option pane, reading and writing, everything through J option. So now let's write the main method. And again, notice how I use constants. I need you to get into the habit of using constants. Now here we were told that the raise was 10%. Usually it won't be. Raise could be anything. For one employee, it could be 10%, for another 5%, for another 7%. You could ask this value of the user. It would then just be a variable, right? This was, I mean, I'm just showing you, you don't have to make it constant. But yes, I would like to make the number of months as a constant. Again, because we all know that there are 12 months in a year. But raise, not necessarily, because raise can be different for different employees. And notice how now, since there is a raise method in the employee class, if I want to give somebody a 10% raise, I'll pass a value of 0.10. If I want to give somebody a 5% raise, I'll pass in a value of 0.05. It's as easy as that. 2.5%, pass in 0.25. So you can give any raise that you like to an employee. Therefore, raise is the right place for the raise method is inside the class. That's where it should be, because every employee will get a raise, kind of. You assume it. Okay, again, you learn, you live and learn. You say, oh, that makes sense. I'll use it next time. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, this is just your first assignment. But pay attention. It's important. Okay, and then any local variables that you need, anything local, I am in the habit of declaring them at one place in main. You don't have to. You can do it on the fly. It's not a good programming habit, but it's up to you, right? So usually variables are all declared. These are all local to main. Only main can see and use them. Remember, see how they're inside the main. Okay, so I said create an employee with the default parameter. So employee 1 gets created. What's inside employee 1? Null in his name or her name and 0 in the salary. Right? I said now create an employee 2 using the parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor means a constructor that takes parameters. That's what a parameterized constructor is. I only had one. I only had one default and one parameterized. So it was very clear. But again, if any time in doubt of English language, any time in doubt of expectations, ask. It's better to ask, not the solution, the question. Okay. So this one I called with Anju Chawla. So once the first one had to be a string and the second one had to be a double. You could change it, but if you change it here, it will come up with an error, because what's your constructor expecting? You have to match it one by one. The number and the type should match. So what were you expecting? You were expecting a name first, and you were expecting the salary as your second parameter. And that's exactly what I did here. Try to, and it will come up with an error. Okay. So I have two employees now. Employee 1 has name null and monthly salary 0. employee 2 has name Anju Chawla and monthly salary of 1,000. That's what. 2 employees are ready. Now I said, ask for employees 1 name. Why? Because he doesn't have a name. I say the J option pane, null, these are the 4 parameters. The 4 parameters say, where are you showing it? Null means in the current window. What is your name is the question. Input name is the title. And then the question message is the question mark. I said, I need to see proper titles and I need to see proper prompts. Everything has a mark. Okay. Then you ask for monthly salary. So when you ask for salary, remember salary is a double. I had shown you integer dot parseInt. All you had to do was use double dot parse double. So ask for the salary, change it into a double and save it in salary. You'll say, why do I need to change it? Because anything that you read using the J option pane class is a string. Even if you're giving numbers, 123, 1000, whatever, even if you're inputting numbers, it is a string. The return type of show input dialog is a string. So I mean, you'll say, how do I know? It's right there. Its definition is right there in the API. It says the return type is string. So if the return type is string and you want to save it in a double variable, you have to parse it into a double. You'll say, I don't want to save it in a double variable, but you have to, because you have to set the salary and it is expecting a double value from you. It is expecting a double value from you. So I read these 2 values from the user and then see the use of the set methods. I call the set name method to change the name, and I call the set monthly salary method to change the salary. I need those 2 methods to change the name and the salary of a person. A person's name will usually not change, but it could. So I made a set method. Salary, of course, can change, right? So I created 2 set methods. That's how you change the name and the salary for the first employee. And that's what I asked you to do. Ask for it and change it. So change means you have to change it in the object. So you have to go to the object employee 1, use a button on its face interface, on its front end, click it and say change. You have to do that job. So how do I do it? Employee 1 dot set your name. Employee 1 set the monthly salary. Okay. Now, once that is done, I wanted you to show this information using the toString method and show it in a dialog box. So what I did was I created a display information method. Here it is. It takes a string from you and it puts it in a J option pane. So string is coming in. It says, what message do you want to print? I want to print a message that comes in. And then employee information becomes the title. Information message becomes the icon. And then null is just saying null. So notice how I write a helper method. It says a string will come to me and I will put it on the screen in a J option. Right? So the string comes to you. So you have to think, what does this method do? Displays a message on the screen. So what does it need from the, so if you want to use it, what does it need? The message that you want to print. That becomes the parameter, the message you want to print. Becomes your parameter. Okay? You could have called it message, you could have called it info, whatever you like. So we'll see, what do? I call it once with employee one's dot toString. So employees 1 information will come up. I call it again with employee. See what is this passing? It is passing a string. The toString method returns a string and you further pass it to display employee information. Printing done. You could have written those 2 statements here, but you know how to write helper methods. Every method does a job. Why would you repeat, copy, paste, copy, paste? Why would you do it? Write it at one place and say, can you print that message for me? Can you print that message for me? So start thinking that I need helper methods, right? Then I said, give employee 1 a 10% raise. So I've shown you, if you have done it in main, this is how you should have done it. Get the person employees 1 monthly salary. Get it. You have to get it. You have to change it. So to change it, you first have to get it because it's a private variable. You just can't go and change it yourself. It's not visible. So you first get it. After you get it, multiply it by 1.10 in my case because my raise is 10. And then set it back. I could have done all this in 1 line. I chose to do it in 3 lines so that it was clear. So see, this is what I did. And I'll kind of dev for a minute. So notice, get his salary of whose? Employee 1's salary. Get it, put it in a local variable. So this is called declaring variables on the fly, where you need them. I usually avoid it. Whatever is your style. It doesn't matter to me here, right? I was commenting it out anyway. And then I said, okay, calculate the new salary. Right? And then I said, oh, now I can actually, it's calculated. I can do, you can, I mean, there are so many ways of doing it. I can just say new salary here. So if you want to go step by step, it's up to you. I could have combined these three statements actually into one statement. I could have just written it this way. See here. So I'll show you again. So if you have to write 3 lines of code, then this is how you would do it. But these 3 lines of code could have been written in 1 line. Get it, multiply it, and set it back in one statement. So you don't need 3 lines of code. This 1 line will do. Right? So choose whatever. But it's doing the math right here in the tester. Or the other option was to call the raise salary method, which is what I would prefer you to do. Every employee can use it. If I wanted the same thing with employee 2, I didn't want to repeat those lines with employee 2. All I say is employee 2 dot raise salary and passing the value. So see, now the method is available in the class. It belongs to the class. It's quite logical that it should be in the class, right? In everybody's car, a brake was provided because we know that a car needs a brake. So it was provided in the car. So it becomes a method of the car. Everybody needs to open the door and close the door. Nobody wants to jump out of the window and get in through the window. You know what I mean? So methods that belong to the class should go in the class definition. And I thought raise was a method that should go in the class. And then I can call it with employee 1, with employee 2, with Amanda, with Anju, with Yana, with Vitani, with anybody. Because it's right there. We're all employees, we all get a raise. Right? So I would prefer that you do it, but if you've done it here, I'm not going to dock off marks, but optionally can add a method in the employee class, and this is a better, you could say design. This is a better class definition. It's better, definitely it's better. Okay, so if you've done the first 3 lines, I'm okay. You did. And notice, I didn't say just give a raise and display it on the screen. I said update the employee's salary. Update it, change it. So it has to be done in the employee object. So go to the employee, get the salary out, multiply it by 1.10 and put it back. That's how it will update. So you need to get it and you need to set. Otherwise it doesn't change. You just can't say, oh, get the salary and then the new salary of the employee is, and you show me the result. Did you change it? No, you didn't. You just showed me. But I said update it, change it. And there again, I need the set. So I get it, I change it, and I set it back. So I follow 3 steps. And those 3 steps I've kind of shown here. Get it, change it, set it back. Or you could do it in 1 line if you want, if it starts making sense to you. I said in the parentheses, I said get it, then you multiply it, so you change it, and then you set it back. And there is nothing wrong in it. So I'll put an or in 1 statement. Choose whatever. Don't write all of them. Doesn't make sense. You're repeating. You're doing it and then you're redoing it. So you either use these 3 or use this, or I would prefer you to use this. That's what I would prefer you to use, because that's how you have to think about class definition. And then I said, now show the information again for employee 1, but this time don't use the toString method. This time use the get method. Right? So what did I do? I created a string for myself. I said format, employee name. I showed the employee name, went to a new line. You can use a %n also here. Nothing stops you, just so that it is different. Then I showed the employee salary, and this was employee's salary. So let's be very clear. Then I showed his salary again with a $sign and 2 places. So I created this string. I created it, and then I passed it again to display information. The display information is still showing results. So you pass it a string and it will show it in a JOption. So I created the string here. In the before one, I was using the toString method. So I was calling the toString. It was giving me that string already. This is the name of the employee and so on. Here I wanted you to use the get methods, but I wanted you to show annual salary always. So I get the salary, multiply by number of months, 12. I don't use the magic number 12 here. I have a constant, so I know, oh, multiplying by 12 will give me annual salary. I give them proper headings, and then I say display information. Can you display it for me? So I pass it what I want to display, and it shows it in the JOption. Done. Right? This is what was expected of you in the assignment. So I'll mark that assignment. That is my next goal, but I'm still marking another assignment from another section I teach, the wrap that I teach. I should be done by Thursday, Friday, and then I'll start marking this. But I won't give my feedback again. Okay, so now when I run it, now let's run it. Okay, so notice how the title has changed. I said I want to see proper titles. This I had to come back to question mark because it was the most suitable icon for this, the question mark. So I'm going to give in mine, not my name, just because I have it already. Let's just give Jack for the heck of it. Right, so okay. And it's already highlighted. Notice how OK button is highlighted. You can change this highlight to another button. There should be a constructor that allows you to do it. You can always check. So it's OK is OK for me because that's what usually people will do. And then it's a, and notice what I've said, Jack, what is your monthly salary? I took the name and I appended it to my message. Makes the message better. Instead of saying, what is your salary? I'm saying, Jack, what is your salary? So Jack is being asked the question. So I got his name and I appended it. It's not a tough job at all. See, when you take the name of the employee here, I took it from the user. And then in the message of the J option pane, I appended it. So it will say, Jack, what is your name? Makes it neater. So you have to think of these small things. Okay, now where is my, there it is. So Jack, what is your monthly salary? So Jack says, just so that it is easy, Jack says my monthly salary is $100. You could go whatever, 100.25 and so on, but really doesn't matter because I want to see if my answers are right. I say, okay. And then I say, Jack has an grammatical error, and for annual, an annual salary of, notice how it's saying $1200.00. So format it. Then I said, okay, you've shown Jack's, now show Anju's. Because remember the second was Anju. So it said Anju Chawla has an annual salary. It's coming from the same J option pane. So definitely an will be wrong everywhere. But I have to make that change. I've written that message at one place. See, I know where it is. I don't have to say, oh, where did I write it? If you had copied and pasted, then it would have been at two places for sure, because I've shown twice already. And that's Anju's annual salary. It was $1,000. So that makes 12,000. And then this is using the get method. Notice how, do you see employee information is coming in the title? And it's very clean. Employee name is Jack and employee annual salary, or you could say Jack's annual salary if you want, is $1320. So it has gone from 1200 to 1320, which is right math. So if you want to show his name, you can show his name, but it already says employee name. But if you want to remove employee annual salary, we can just say annual salary. And I again know where this place is. So I know where I have these grammatical errors. So if you go back to NetBeans, the toString method has an. Instead of an, it has an a. Okay, so I know that change done. It will take care. ToString is being called. That will take care. And then in test employee, if you don't want to show, and it's kind of looking an overkill, if you don't want to say employee annual salary again, we'll just say annual salary. Look at it and see where changes want to be made and just make it. And I know exactly where I have to do this. And I don't have to do it many places. The right message has to be passed and it will print out the message. So when toString has to be called, you call it like any other method. Object name dot the name of the method. You can avoid the toString. You can just say employee one. If I was saying system.out.println, and then I can say employee one because you're already printing. Here I'm passing it to a method, so I can do this. So the toString method is just like any other method. You just say object name dot the name of the method. If I hadn't written the toString when I was saying system.out.println employee. There it automatically calls it because it says, oh, you're trying to print something. What can you print? It would automatically call the toString method, but not anywhere else. So if you don't want to get confused, just call it. It's just a method. Object name dot the name of the method. Okay. So now it should be neat. Grammatical errors taken care of. Titles are being changed. Icons, the information message, where it was information, I used information message. Where it was question message, I used question message. Right, so I'll put this on Blackboard. Just remind me before I leave class. I'll put this on Blackboard so that you can again go through it if you like. And see where you missed things, because then you won't miss it. You know what I mean? You won't miss it in the next assignment. And that's how you will learn. So I'll try my best. The rest I leave to you. Can't do much about it, right? Okay, so that takes care of the assignment you did. And as I said, it will take before you will have your feedback, maybe more than that, just because I have to go through each and small and everything. When I give an assignment, my purpose is I test you on everything I've taught. And anything extra you want to do, please go ahead. I'll give you bonus marks for it. So if you've thought of race putting in the class, you thought about it, right? You made it a point. Ask for bonus. Say, I did it. Can you give me bonus for it? I did something extra from what you asked. Why not? Right? So let me know. Sometimes I'm not thinking, right? With so many marking assignments to mark, maybe I'm not even paying attention. I'm saying, oh, it's done, it's working, everything is fine. I'm not thinking, oh, he did something or she did something extra. So always mention if you want. When you submit it, and please submit how I ask you. I don't want to have 10 submissions all called lab 1. Then I'm saying, who is this? It makes it very difficult for me. It wastes my time. I don't want to waste my time. I want to utilize my time in giving you my feedback. Okay, so please follow the instructions in the assignment completely and correctly. It doesn't take long, guys. You have to learn to follow instructions. How will you work in the work environment? If I don't come to class at 11 a.m., what will you do? Nothing. Like you have to follow some rules and instructions. Okay, I'll put this on Blackboard. Remind me. Are we okay? Then are we okay? Anything that is in your mind that is not making sense? And some of you do require a lot of assistance. And I'm not blaming you that why, but you have to make the effort. When I went around, people didn't know how to call a method. Like they were stuck. That means you need a lot of practice. And that's okay, but you have to do it. So I've almost started from scratch, right? I'm not assuming anything. I've started my class from scratch. I created a calculator class from scratch. I talked about it as I was doing stuff. I again talked about another class today. So I am assuming that at least what I'm doing, you should know. I'm not saying what you didn't do or what you don't know. At least know what I'm doing, right? And if you're not doing that, then there is not much we can do about it, right? Okay, so today's job now. Today's job is to create, again, of course, a new class. We'll learn how to create classes. That's our job, right? We are trying to learn how to create classes and how to then use those classes and so on. So what I've brought with me is so that maybe it's a little more visual. I hope I kept it. So I'll try to do things that make sense to you so that you've seen it somewhere. Where did I keep it now? Oh, there it is. I thought I had. Okay, so I've brought a deck of cards, right? All of you are familiar with the deck of cards because I'm sure sometime or another in your life you have played a deck of cards. Someday. It could be any of your favorite too, right? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of hold one card to you. And if I wanted to create a card class, a class that represents a card, right? What attributes would you give to a class that represents it, and what methods? Okay, it's very simple. There's not much to a card, right? How do you distinguish one card from another? Shane?
It's suit and number.
Okay, so there is a suit, right? There is a suit and
Face names.
And there is a face name. So Shane said number, which is not wrong because he's a 3 and a 7, but
it still has a numeric value.
Yeah, so it has a numeric value. So it has a suit, right? It could be spades, it could be diamonds, it could be hearts, it could be whatever. Fourth one I forget. Could you go to the fourth one? Has a value of 11. We know it. It has a value of 11. So there are 3 attributes that you can contribute to a card: suit, a face name, and then a value. Anything else that you can recognize? Anything else on the card that you need as an attribute of the card? No. That's all. That's how you recognize a card, right? That's how you recognize a card. But that's suit. Suit will tell you diamonds, spades, right? Hearts. They have already been involved. Color is already involved. You already know that. So that takes care of it. So we don't need a color. We don't need a color. It's redundant. So yes, color puts something that comes up in your mind, but remember, the color is accommodated in the suit already. Right? So now let's try to write this class. So is it simple? right? I need 3 attributes. I need a face name, I need a suit, and I need a value, a face value. Now the face values from 2 to 10 are okay. 2, 3, that's, I mean, it's the same face, the same value. But for J, Q, K, jacks, queens, kings, and aces, value on the, like you have to kind of associate it. So jack is an 11, queen is a 12, king is a 13, and ace is a 14. So there are valid values. There are 4 valid suits, and there are 14 valid values, and there are 14 face names. So you could do error checking. But you can create it unless it satisfies one of the suits, one of the face values, and one of the int values, its value. You can't create a card anything else. So we can do error checking. Anytime we want to set, anytime we want to create a card object, we can do some validation. We should be doing validation because you can create a card out of nowhere, right? It has to have either of these 4 or of those 4. So we'll learn how to do it. Yeah? So let's try to create this class. A class for card. Once we have a class for card, what is a deck? What is a deck? Collection of cards. A deck is nothing but collection of cards. So you create 52 cards and you create a deck. Once you have a deck of cards, so what can you do with a card? Basically nothing. It will only have setters and getters. You know what I mean? And constructors. You don't do anything with the card, but you do something with a deck of cards. What do you do with a deck of cards? Shuffle. So we'll think of a method called shuffle. And deal. Those are the methods that you do with a deck of cards. So that's how, if you can visualize these things in your mind, good. Right, so again, I took this example, Jarrett, you know Jarrett, he teaches you one. Jarrett used it in a previous class and it made a lot of sense. He said that's how you kind of visualize things for students. Some students are visual learners and it will help. I thought it was a good idea. And it's in your book also, okay? This example is in your book. So I picked up this example so that you could see things and maybe then try to make a connection. That's how you decide about attributes of a class and that's how you decide about methods of a class, okay? So that, and another thing that, just for your information, if you would like to know, there is a IDE, not a very good IDE, but there is an IDE out there which is not as rich as NetBeans or Eclipse or IDEA IntelliJ, but there is an IDE out there that's called BlueJ. That's called BlueJ. This IDE is very visual. It's very baby-like, but it's very visual. So, oh, there, it's just open here by chance, right? Though it's not the right one, but it's open here. What you can do in this IDE is you can create a new project like we do in NetBeans or whatever. And then once you have, I've just opened a new one. It was just already present. That's not a big deal, right? You can always create a new project and then inside that project, you create a new class. So if I wanted to create the project that we just created in NetBeans, I'll go like this. I'll say project, new project, right? It says, okay, where do you want to place it? So I put things when I practice something. I've just placed it in something called personal practice, right? So I'll just call it employee project. Okay, so I create an employee project. Once you have the project, this is how the window will look like, nothing. Now inside this project, you can start creating new classes. So let's create the employee class. You can even create a package if you want. Can I in BlueJ? Oops, no. But there should be some way. Oh, there it is, new package. There should be some way. You can create a new package also if you like, because I have a new, usually NetBeans and Eclipse automatically create it. Here, if you don't create a package, it goes in the default. Once you start creating, you can create packages and then you can start creating the classes. So let's create the employee class that you just created in NetBeans. Right? You double click on it. I just give you one example. It's just an editor, except that this editor does not help you at all. There is nothing that's like NetBeans or Eclipse yet. You have to just know everything. So there you, as soon as you say object name dot, it gives you a list of all the methods. BlueJ does nothing of this sort. So you have to know what you're doing. You know what I mean? So they have their own advantages and disadvantages. There, You have to know what you're doing, but at least you don't have to look up the Java API. It gives you a set of all methods and you can choose. Here, it won't help you at all. You'll have to do everything yourself. So just I'll go to NetBeans and I'll go to my source package of employee Java. I'll kind of do a control AC here and then bring it here. Control AV here. And then, of course, since my package statement is wrong, I'll remove that package statement. I think it creates it itself. I can't remember. The BlueJ I haven't used for a while, but I used to use it for my Java because it was so simple to use, right? Now, once a class is created, if you have made any compilation errors, it will tell you. Like in Eclipse and NetBeans, you see the red squiggly as you type, so you know, but here you'll have to compile it. It will tell you if you make a mistake. For example, I forget my semicolon and I compile it, it will say semicolon is expected. So that's how it will help you, but not while you type it, right? Okay, now once your class is ready and you've compiled it, you can now use it as if, oops, where are you, BlueJ? Here. So now your class is ready. You can kind of think this as a definition. Now, if you want to create an object of the employee, you right click and you say, create an employee for me. Notice how the two constructors come up here. You say, oh, why do I use a constructor? To create an employee. So let's create an employee with the default one. It says, okay, shall I call it employee one? I'll say, yeah, that's fine, call it. Notice how the employee one comes on the object bench. This is called the object bench. You have an employee, you can see an employee. You can actually go inside it and you say, inspect it. What are you expecting? Name as null and salary as 0. Right? So it's kind of visual. So if it helps you, download it. It's a very small download. It's available at bluej.org. Okay. You'll say, how do I change the name? So notice you see all these methods here. How do I change the person's name? Go to set name and give his new name. I'll call it Anju. In double quotes. Strings have to be given in double quotes and literals if it's an int, like an int. If it's a float with the F, if it's a double without the F. So now this has, you can use the get name. See, it will tell you what happens when I do a get name. It's displayed on the screen. You can kind of think it's showing it to you. How can I inspect it? Inspect tells you everything about it. See, Anju has changed. You want to change the salary? I want to change the salary. So I can say set monthly salary if I want. I'll say, okay, give her $100 or $1,000. Let's be a little more kind to me, right? I say $1,000. Inspect it again or use the get method to get it. There, that's her salary. Now you can't format it. It's the default. It's showing 0.0. But of course, this is just seeing it. When I write my tester, I'll show it however I want it. Okay, but this is just how BlueJ is showing it. Now I say give this employee a raise. And notice how it tells you the raise salary returns void expects a double from you. Let's give this person a 10% raise. So I go 0.10. That's how we have to know how to do it. And then I say, okay. And now when I inspect it again, see, this person's salary has gone up to 1,100. It was 1,000. I gave a 10% raise. That is becoming that. So if this helps you, download BlueJ. Right? This is another visual kind of, it's a visual ID, but it's a very simple ID. No help at all. Like nothing. You will have to keep the API open if you like, which is okay. So I changed to Eclipse and then to NetBeans because that's what the industry demands, right? And that's what the department demands. A few years, 3 years back. I thought it was so visual that students understood it. But again, I mean, you have to change with time. So BlueJ is not used in the industry at all. It's a educating tool, right? It's just for students. So in schools, they will use it. If you've done Java in your high school, people use this. And I did for a few years. I like it. I just like how it shows things. So if you wanted to write a tester, you would create another. So this is actually creating a class and testing it without a tester. I can test it without a tester. I can add a toString. There is a toString method. It's showing you the annual salary. Call it. See, Anju has an annual salary of 3,200, 13,200.00. It's exactly showing you how I said I want it to be shown. So it shows you. It returns the value it returns. It shows you in its own JOption. But of course, this is if a tester is required, then you will create a new class and write whatever you do. But at least you can see that a class exists, that a definition exists. And you can create as many as you like. I want to create another employee using the parameterized one. So let's go with Amanda here right in front. And let's give Amanda a monthly salary of easy ones. $100, right? So that the math can be, of course, if you wanted to, you can give a double F also. F goes with float. You can put a float inside a double box. It can be done. If you put it without F, it is assumed to be a double. If you put it with F, it is assumed to be a float. That's the only difference. But you should know how to input a float value. You have to put F. Here it is requiring a double. And then I say N, okay. See, there she is. Inspect her. There is the data inside this object. So an object is a real entity. Class is not a real entity. Can I do a right click and say inspect? No, it's just a definition from which I can create objects. But I can inspect these guys because these are real objects. So definition, class is a definition and objects are reality. That's what it is. So class is a blueprint. Objects are reality. Okay, that's what it is. Classes are templates. The actual document that you create from it, whether it's a Word document or whatever, becomes your object. So you define classes, and so Java class library has all these class definitions. And when you want to use them, you create an object of it and you use it. Make sense? That's the difference. So classes are just definitions and objects are real entities. And then you can play with them. Like you will say, oh, what does the set method do? What does this do? If I want to add another method to it, where is my raise? What do I do? Can I add it? Yeah, go change its definition and then it will come up here and you can use it. Okay? So you can download BlueJ if you like. It's very simple. You don't have to learn anything in it except how to create packages and classes, which is okay. Okay, so just so that you know, I had, and another thing that I do want to mention is that I've asked Jared to give me his, he has some playlists on YouTube, right? He also records his lessons. So I kind of asked him if I could give him the URL. Of course, you can go and look at it. Nothing stops it. But since it is his work, before I wanted to make it public, I wanted to ask him. So he says, sure, go and use my, whatever I have recorded. He's taught this course also, maybe in a different manner. But I don't know, like I haven't attended his classes, but he has. He's used the card example. So maybe after listening to me and you see his, it makes more sense. So he's passed me on his URLs on his playlist, but he's available on YouTube and you can just go and look for, I don't know, like how he saves it, Conf 1028, whatever. But I will give you his playlist addresses on Blackboard and you're most welcome to go and listen to his also. Or wherever you can get whatever you want. He teaches you, at least you know him personally, then it's easy to understand somebody you learn from. So I'll put that on Blackboard, okay? So he's fine with it. Also, I have been emphasizing, and I have a document now, I've been emphasizing, learn to read your errors because you will learn from them. See where the problem is. Bring your mouse, hover your mouse over it. See what it is trying to say. And Jared has prepared a kind of a document which says common errors. And it's good, so I'll give it to you, right? So maybe you've seen it. So I said, oh, that's a good idea. I've never made a document, but maybe because he teaches the fundamental course also, the first programming fundamental. He used to till last fall. So I think then it's more useful for students, but it's a good idea, right? Instead of just saying it, if I give you a document and you keep adding to the document, I made this error, then anytime you can go back and say, oh, that's what I do. Okay, so I'll pass on that document also to you. I'll attach it to that. So he passed me, I forgot over the weekend. So I'll give it to you. Okay, so before we start now, it's 12:13 almost, we'll take a break. We'll take a 20-minute break. Please have your lunch, come back, and then we'll start writing our card class. Okay, we'll go step by step. We'll write the card class, then we'll write the deck of cards. And then we'll write a date. So over this week and over next week, we'll try to complete this. And then I'll expect you to do something for me. So start looking around for a card game. Okay, and only one student can use one kind of game. Okay, so as soon as the better fast you do it, the better it will be. Okay, guys, take a break. Come back at 12:35 then. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people like this one, but. I usually special ship food days.
That's okay. As long as you learn from your mistakes and don't make it again, right?
This was more the breakfast on it Friday. I didn't like that. I regret missing.
Oh.
I'm guessing we're on break or something?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, here comes, I'm normally in the Thursday class, but I'm moving to my new house. Thursday, so let's go. Big venue, we just go to the world.
Oh, this is all.
Did you apply for your co-op job too?
I was looking at the only kind of final stuff that
Yeah, I was looking at.
I
Don't feel confident.
years of programming and I don't know.
If you want to, or if you're.
Wow, this is kind of like a knowledge, solid knowledge. Wow. It's very pathetic. Good job.
Not yet.
They have a very keen
Yeah.
for they have like one.
Yeah.
You're moving somewhere else.
No, it's about a house just down the road.
Not far.
Not far, no, it's 3 doors down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's only like 2 days. Like Wednesday, Thursday.
The what class? PHP?
Yeah,
So,
it's
I'm in class for that.
our class.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, sure, right?
Um,
It's Thursday and Fridays mornings, 8 AM to 11.
I don't know.
It's a condensed course, so it'll be done in 7 weeks.
Oh,
I have an exam this Thursday.
really? Oh, wow. Oh, Instagram version is fine. I actually like when they put structure and like laptop, last time I kept helping us.
Yeah.
Similar to that. That's very structured.
That's good. Are you taking that virtual communication?
Yeah, online. Are you there?
Yeah.
Um,
Nobody posted anything yet.
I was like waiting, like, you have to reply to the post. And I think one guy posted on Friday, I was like so happy, you know, like, okay, you replied something.
Yeah.
Because nobody was there.
Yeah, same with mine, nobody replied though.
Yeah, no, it's just-
And even the teacher said he was gonna reply like Wednesday so that you could, so that you'll get
Yeah.
doc marks for replying on Friday.
You know, that's, you know, when he was like, oh, I was kicked out of the, like, process, blah, 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 I don't, the new, right, anything, I was like, wow. But this time, like, also one guy wrote, okay, nobody wrote,
I have to do that tonight, because last time I did it right on the Monday, but this time I did it today, because I was working on PHP stuff.
Oh, but I did it, yeah, actually.
Yeah. I'm on assignment one, I'm just trying to figure out.
Oh, send it now, sometimes we have like,
Yes, and I said, yeah, I'm until tomorrow midnight. It's almost done, it's just, I wanted a bit extra so I get like maybe the following part. I just want to confirm age, but I'm just trying to figure out.
I think like one, sure, I don't know, just like kind of a resolution.
Like a farm, yes.
I mean,
So right now, it has to be valid. So something like this, you can't submit it. And then my password is not, they don't match the value. But I'm trying to get it to like age, you can't really do it. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Same thing.
yeah,
Less than zero. Like that.
and, well, I don't know, like key structure is that you have different files. Like, you have an HTML file, and then you have like a validation file. So you don't have to try that HTML file.
Oh, yeah, yeah, this one is, it's basically Andrew's cards. It's together.
Then I think he's have like more separate files. Then you have just HTML form, and then you write like validation and like you have like display and like save. But you can do it.
Yeah, because this is what it's fast, you can use that one. Do the more guys.
Or why can we?
Because it's pre-made, you don't have to know. Save, this is like a. That's the password. This is like a valid. Like I can make it, and I've already done this. And I put,
No, I can.
we haven't done that.
Oh, what do you have to do?
I just wanted to confirm. If it was right, then. they want to say it's not, it's gonna be.
Display. Where's that called?
Oh, this would be good though. This would be a good spot.
No, no, before the thing, right? Before the break. You're saying if this is not, if this expression is not.
Yeah, then I want to add. Or- So then here, do you put it on? It would be red, so it doesn't care about it. Just like this one, when you put whatever, it's red. It's because it's automatic, when you just put nothing, but I need some kind of reader. Just about it.
No, usually, it's like try and catch. let me, think about it. Yeah. Oh, so the future. Oh, we can just put time number. Oh, it's PHP, right? PHP, variable. Yeah, you have to declare it first. Equals 30. It's just not. No, you use that.
Assignments. In assignments, solutions to in-class assignment. Oh, maybe you're not seeing it. Okay. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Because I think, yeah, sorry. I forgot to make display it. Go ahead now. Solutions to in-class assignments. Okay, so let's create the class now, the class on cart, right? And then we'll take it forward from there. Okay, so create a new project. Oops. And let me place it where I can find it. Project name. Let's call it card or deck of cards, whatever you would like to call it, or card game. Ultimately, we will make a game out of it, right? We'll create a card, then we'll create a deck of cards, and then ultimately we'll create a game with it. So that may be what you will do. And let's say finish. So I'm creating a new project so that I have it at one, oops, place. Okay. So put it where you want it. I just put it at the wrong place. So I'm kind of creating it again.
On project?
I'm just calling it card game. Oh, it says it's already empty. You know what? That way I can remember. What is it? Tuesday today? Okay.
Tuesday is May 30th.
Thank you. And I'll give it a name with Tuesday. That way I don't have to keep thinking which one is open. It can stay here and I can refer to it. So I've called it Card Game Tuesday. Call it whatever makes sense to you. To me, Tuesday, just because I can recognize your section. And put it in a folder where you can find it, please. Otherwise it goes in a default one, and that's up to you. You can, but you should know where you're saving it. Okay. Okay. So, so as soon as you create a project in NetBeans, you can always change it, but I kind of don't bother to. You have a package by the same name, and notice how all package names are all in small case. So everything follows convention, and we should understand it, and we should appreciate it. We should do the same. All packages in Java, java.awt, javax.swing, java.lang, they're all in lowercase. Okay, and that's the package it has created. Now inside that package, it has by default created, it's kind of an odd name, but yeah, I could always do it. So I'm going to now start creating classes. So I'm going to create a new class and I'll call it card. Oops. Class names follow Pascal naming convention. Okay, so I'm going to create a class. So I don't know why NetBeans places this, but anyway. So please start with your comments, your Java doc comment at the head, right? So this class basically is representing or simulating a card. That's what all it does, right? That's all it describes. It describes, we say describes, we say simulates, because it's not it's not creating anything. You know what I mean? It's telling you what a card game will look like. So let's say this class describes, you can say it doesn't simulate, but you can say describes a card. Right? Or you can say a card object if you want, but that kind of becomes a little technical. So we don't have to mention the word card object with it. So it just defines. And definition means attributes and methods. Okay, so keep in mind, I would like to see an author at the head. And you can do a since or a version, whatever you like. And today is May 30th, as Bradley pointed out. So you can put a date if you like, you can use since if you like, and then versions can become, you may be working on more than one versions in a day. That's why since is used for dates and versions for numbers. Version 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, and so on. Yes. For version, I've done that. You can choose add since if you like.
Oh.
You can use add since. If that makes more sense to you, that's up to you. Like in the Java API, notice it, the since says, since when is this class available? JDK 1.0, JDK 5.0. They tell you since when is this available. So if you want to put date there, sure. And then in version numbers, you can start putting your version numbers, whatever works for you. Remember, versioning is very important in programming, very important. Programmers don't work on copying, pasting, deleting. They always keep versions of their code, because it gives them, they can always go back. You know what I mean? What versions are. So if you keep, and what helps, there are many software out there that help. I'm familiar with GitHub, not with all of them. GitHub allows you to version keep versions of your code. So as you save, as you commit, it saves the previous version and then the new and then the new, and you can always go back to a previous version. It's always available. Okay, so oops, I didn't notice it was here. So as we kind of decided, we said there were 3 attributes that kind of characterize a card. I don't think anybody else, we would have any objection to it. But if there is anything extra you see, let me know. So we have kind of said there are 3 characteristics or 3 attributes or 3 how I look. This is a good example of how I look, right? That will characterize a card class. So let's put that. And again, you can call them attributes if you like. You can call them fields if you like. You can call them instance variables, whatever makes sense to you, okay? It should make sense to you. You should know exactly why you are doing what you're doing. We call them instance variables because they take a value or they mean something when we create an instance out of it. That's why we also call them instance variables. They belong to the instance, to the object. Object is also called an instance for information. Okay, so we kind of decided we'll stick to private, please. Please see, at least in my course, you stick, because there's nothing wrong in it. They're out there. It is recognized. But there are again 2 sets of people who are arguing. I belong to this set. I like my data to be hidden. The whole concept is data hiding, a principle of oops. So I'll stick to it. And if I say you have to in an assignment, please do. If not, that's up to you, entirely up to you. Okay. Okay. So we said we would need a few variables. So let's start with a suit, right? Every card will have a suit. We have 4 of them, but we will. Again, usually the practice is, the convention is we declare 1 instance variable per line in a class definition. Doesn't matter where you place it. Really doesn't. Remember, it's encapsulation. Object-oriented programming says data and methods are encapsulated in a capsule. So it doesn't matter. However you shake it, it's all there. Which is not true of procedural programming or what you're doing in SQL. You have to write them in the right sequence. But here it's just a definition. So see the difference. You can do that in an application. In main, you can do it. You have to declare a variable before you use it, right? So that's writing an application is different from defining a class. You can put your instance variables anywhere since it is a definition. Okay, so you don't run it, you don't execute it, you compile it. Okay, whereas applications you run. So when you run, you have to go in sequence or to methods and come back. And we said then that we would have, I think Bradley pointed out,
Face value.
face name.
Face name, sorry.
Whatever you like, doesn't really matter, right? And then we said, okay, we have a face name and we have a suit, but we definitely need a face value, which is of type int. We all agree on these three attributes, right? The two are string because the suit is hearts or diamonds or spades or cloves, right? I keep forgetting the fourth one. And the face name is also a string because we have jack and queen and king and ace. Those are strings. But the face value is only an integer. It ranges from 2 to 14. Okay, so I don't know if in some games A is also taken to be 1, but like it's accepted. Again, it's game dependent actually. In some games you assume that ace is an A, a 1, but we'll go from 2 to 14. I don't know if it's different in games, but at least we used to use it as 1 in one of the games. I remember.
Could be both in blackjack.
Sorry?
Ace is either 1 or 11 in blackjack.
It is okay. So it is okay for me to say, but we'll kind of stick with 2 to 14. If that's okay, you can change it if you like, depending upon how you want to work with it if you have a game. So remember, the end result of all what I'm doing would be to create a game that uses this card class, right? This card class is actually, as a standalone class, it's not big, but it takes momentum as soon as I create a deck of cards. And as soon as I have a deck of cards, I can play any game with a deck of cards. Okay, having said that, we will now write our common constructors and we will write our setters and getters. Okay, so let's write your constructor. And the use of a constructor, when you create a card object, obviously, you would like to give it, like, it could have a value or it could have a face. I mean, a card has to have all three things, right? So now, when you created, you could give it one of the 4 suits, whatever you want. You could give it one of the face names if you want, and you could give it one of the corresponding value of that face thing. You could do that. And you could say, I'll just do it. Like I'll assume, I'll set it myself. The object, when I use it in a deck of cards, I have to have 13 of each, right? I have to have 13 of each. A deck of cards requires 13 of one suit, 13 of another, 13 of another, and 13 of another. So here we'll have to kind of think a little more intelligently. Okay, so this constructor, or you can say this method, you don't have to say constructor, but means the same thing. We'll create a card and we'll validate that everything is okay. What should I say? Validating its, and say values. Its characteristics is kind of all. Its data, maybe. If I think of a better word, I will. Right, so it's validating its data. That means its face name, face value, and so on. Right, and we'll take the following params. Okay, keep in mind params, P-A-R-M. Okay, so what do we want? We'll keep the same name. I need a suit. I need a face name, and I need a face value. Face value. I'm sticking to the same names because it makes it easy. You don't have to, but you shouldn't shy away from it. Like, oh, because I don't understand it, I'll give them different names. It's very common to give them the same names, the params the same names as the name of the instance variables. Then all you have to do is this. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy. Okay. Now, what are these params? What does the suit do? To set, you can always say a string, right? That's also common. A string to set the suit of the card. What does face name do? A string to set the face of the card. It sets the face, okay? And what does face value do? An int to set the value of the card. You can say an integer if you want. And again, you can avoid a string, and an integer. I've seen both ways being done in the Java API. Okay. Of course, it won't return anything. Remember, constructors don't return, they return an object, but obviously they don't return anything. Okay. Every constructor is public, excuse me, has no return type, not even void, has no return type. So please understand, void is a valid return type. I always find it difficult to teach after lunch, but there's no other time I can take it. Okay, so it doesn't have a return type. The name of a constructor is the same as the name of the class. And since I've said it will take 3 parameters, so it doesn't matter in which sequence you give it, it really doesn't matter. So we have to have a string. If you want to go in the same, then it has to have another string. And then it has to have I usually match the sequence of my params with the of my parameter list. They don't have to, but it's kind of easy. Always make it a point, put an opening bracket and then put the closing and say off. Then you won't make these silly mistakes. Sometimes they're silly and you're kind of stuck. Okay. The suit has to be validated. 4 values. The value has to be validated. Cannot happen either from, like, you can only go from 2 to 14 or 1 to 13 or whatever it is. We are going 2 to 14, okay? And the face name. We could actually also validate the face name. We'll just have, the only problem with validating the face name is, or yeah, we could validate all 3. Your face names can be 2, 3 as strings, 2, 3, 4, whatever, Jack, Queen, this and this. You can validate all 3 actually. Let's try. Okay, so let's set. Again, I'll use set methods, all validation in my set methods. I'm going to set the suit, pass the suit to it. Set the face name. And notice how my set methods are kind of nice, named the same way. Face name. And then I'm going to set the face value. I'll see what I can. I'm not, okay, we'll see. No big deal. You can always create an enumerated data type and say it has to lie in it. And I would prefer it. Okay, now what is it complaining? It says, I don't see any of those set methods, which is okay. It doesn't see any of those set methods, right? Now, if you want, you can type them yourself and it's not a big deal. Or remember, we can always go to refactor and then we can go to encapsulate fields. Both setters and getters, which kind of, I mean, that's what we want. So we're going to create setters and getters, and we will not use accessors even when field is accessible, right? I won't overkill. We'll do it in the toString, but otherwise I'll just use variable names. You could, as I said, see, therefore that option is there. Some programmers want to use get even in their class. They don't want to use the variable name. They want to use get always, and that's perfectly fine, right? There's nothing which, I mean, for me, if it was just returning the value, I wouldn't want it. But if it was returning something else, formatting it, then maybe. And we'll say refactor. Okay. Okay, so what does it do? It kind of creates the getters and setters for you, right? So it's a little easy. And notice how it says suit to the suit to set. Okay, to set the suit to set. It's kind of a little different, but that's okay. Okay, so now the description of the method. We'll always put the description of the method. I have started with set. If you want to do gets before, that's okay. So this method sets the suit of the car. If you want to go by the sequence it was given, we can do that. Yes, Shane.
I totally blanked there. How did you do that?
How did you do that? Okay, I have refactor, encapsulate fields, down last one in the kind of last block. Did you find it here? Encapsulate fields, and then check your getters and check your setters. And then remove the use accessors even when field is accessible. Unless you want to use get everywhere, that's up to you. Remove the checkbox, use accessors even field is accessible.
So we can check all the checkboxes?
Yeah, then it will give you all getters and setters, whatever you want. We want all, right? Okay. Okay. So you can go one by one. So let's start with this one. I think you get it the same order, but doesn't matter. This method returns the suit of the card. Okay, so that's one job done. I'll kind of complete them. And it says return suit. Make sense? Nothing to do in returns. Returns are easy. We are not formatting them or anything, but you could always format them. Usually we don't, but you could always. Okay, so one job done. Now let's come to sets the suit of the card and it validates it. So what is this validation I'm talking about? The suit can only be hearts, diamonds, spades, and clubs. Nothing else. So how do we validate it? There are a few ways. There are only 4 values, so you don't have to use an enumerated data type, but you could always do that. And I'll show you both ways. Okay. Okay. So I'm not only saying this. I'm going to do an if here. Else, I'm going to throw an exception. So we'll learn how to do that too. Okay. And again, if there is only one statement, we don't have to put them in curly brackets. Some of you were asking me, your curly brackets are missing. If there is only one statement, either in if or else, we don't have to do it. Anyway, it's not yet done. So I'm going to throw. We learned this before. Throw simply throws an exception object back to whoever is calling this method. So from wherever this method is called, if the suits is not one of the valid values, it will throw an exception object, right? It's not displaying, it just throws an exception. You say, but you are saying I'm not going to return anything. It's not like a return. It's like saying, here you've made a mistake. So how do you throw an exception object? You create a new exception object right here and throw it. So you have 3 verbs in exception handling: throw, throws, third one. Or are there 2? Throw and throws. Maybe throw and throws, but there is something. I think there are 3. I'm blanking out on third. So there is a difference between throw and throws. Okay, so there are 2 for sure. So I am saying throw a new exception object. Now, just as a layman, I'll try to tell you. In Java, there is a class called exception, which is further divided into 2 kind of exceptions. One that will stop the program from running. One is a group of runtime exception. If that's an exception you make, the runtime error, the JRE will catch it and say, I can't do nothing, and it stops. And then the other, and you have to basically say, okay, that's fine how it goes. And the other group, you have to take care of them. I mean, those exceptions, the program doesn't terminate, the user has to tackle them in the code, right? So there are 2 kind of groups of. So one you can just ignore, you make error occurs, the program stops, terminated. The other ones, we won't work with the other ones a lot because they're more on the system side. But the other kind, you're expected to kind of handle them. Okay. So I'm going to throw an exception. You could simply say throw a new exception object. You could simply say like this and it will work. But also Java comes with some predefined classes that kind of make sense in their names. So you can throw an illegal argument exception. So the illegal argument exception is already a class in Java. Using exception was no big deal at all, but now you're kind of being more descriptive, and illegal argument means the argument you've given me is illegal. And then you can always pass a message to it. So you're basically creating a new object. Remember new object? I'm using the new verb. So I'm creating a new object of type illegal argument exception. And I'll say something like card. What should I say? I don't want to give a big one. Or maybe must be. So now you can mention the 4. Okay. So what are the 4? Must be hearts, spades, diamonds, or clubs. Oh, okay. There. So what will happen is we'll learn how to do it. But if you try to set the suit to not one of these, then it will kind of create an exception object and it will throw back. Your program will terminate if you don't handle it. It just terminates. As soon as an exception object is thrown, it terminates. And in your error message will come this message. Card suit must be hearts, spades, diamonds, or clubs. So you'll see this message, which will make sense to the user, but it's not a pretty output. We'll make it prettier in the sense we'll learn how to catch it. Okay. But here, if you try to do it, you call the set method, it will bark. Now, what's your if? The suit that you are passing me must be either hearts or spades or diamonds or clubs. How do you compare strings? Do you use the equal to sign to compare strings? If I want to compare two string variables, or if I want to compare suit is equal to hearts, is that how I compare strings, or is there another way? Yeah, you can't use the equals in string comparison. Equal is only, oh, it's raining like hell, so it was fine. Okay, holy, for a minute I thought it was snow. Okay, so strings are not compared using equals. It compares the addresses where those are situated. Remember, objects are reference variables. They have addresses. Whereas basic data types are value. The box has the value inside it. Right? But when we compare objects, the objects have addresses inside it. So when you say equal to, they're comparing the two addresses inside the box. And you can do it. That's not what we want to do. We want to compare whether the value is equal to spades or whatever. So the method that you use that is coming from the string class, when you want to compare a string variable with another string variable or a value, is called equals. Right? And if you notice, two equals came up. Now they won't come up there. There are two of them. There are two equals methods in string class. The first one is case insensitive. Like it just compares. Equals means doesn't matter. Case doesn't matter. Oh, sorry. Case matters. The equals ignore case is case insensitive. So I mean, somebody puts in a capital S for spades, somebody puts a P. Doesn't matter. Spades is a spades. You know what I mean? The suit is spades. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to use the second method in which it says as long as it is spades. So ignore the case. Don't worry about case. And compare it with, as long as that's the case, it's okay. You know what I mean? So now you have to compare it with four of them. Okay. So if the suit ignores equal case is spades or, so now you can, if you like, put it on different lines or, not and. They can be four together. Or now just start copying and write all four conditions. And you tell me if you can think of a better way. I'm thinking more in terms of enumerated data type. But anyway, so the first one is spades. You can just enter. It's called spades, hearts, clubs, and diamonds. I think it's in plural, right? We don't say spade, heart. Are the suits in plural or singular? I've always said them in plural. We can double check. I'm not a very I don't love cards. I don't play a lot of cards.
User-friendly, could do both.
Both, yeah.
Like you pull like a, one of spades.
Yeah. Usually I think we call them spades. But anyway, if that's the case, we'll have to add more four of them. But anyway, what are we doing? What have I left? Clubs. I was calling it cloves because it looks like a clove. It's clubs, right? Okay. So now you're saying if the suit is spades or it is hearts or it is diamonds or it is club, I'm okay. Right? And equals ignore case says doesn't matter. Small capital doesn't matter. Case insensitive. What was it? Shift Alt F. There it is. Now you don't have to write this in 4 lines. You could put them in the same line. Writing it in 4 is just make it, it's just clear for you. That's all it does. Okay, so what does it do? It's kind of validating your data. It says the string that you provide me has to be one of these 4. Any, not and, or. Can it be all 4 together? And means all together. Can be. It can either be this or this or this one. This or that you see, the two pipes that you see is the or operator in Java. There is another one with a single line. And the difference is this is a short circuit or. Short circuit or says, as soon as I know that the condition is true, I will not check. For example, you've given spades. The first condition itself is true. It is spades. It doesn't bother to check the rest. It says when one condition is true and there is an or after it, everything is true. Right? If there was an and, then it will check the second one. And again and, then the third one. But as soon as it knows it is either true or false, it will stop. So suppose this had and spades, it was not a spade, and it says, oh, false. It was, I'm not going to check for that. I found out it is false. So therefore, they're called short circuit. short circuit operators. The two ands, the two ors are both short circuit. You have a single and a single or for your information. Nobody bothers to use them. Why would one? To save execution time. Has the set method made sense to you? So all it is doing is, if it is a valid value, use it. And I don't need these, okay, because I only have one statement, but that's okay. If I have a valid value, use it, else throw an exception. And I've used a class called illegal argument exception, already available. It's already there in Java. It's already defined. The name made sense, so I used it. You can create your own exception classes by extending the exception class. So sometimes you may want your own exception class because it's an application in its own right. You don't, I mean, there is nothing that Java provides you. You can create your own exception objects, own exception classes and objects. And we will learn to when we do exception handling in more detail. So the set is making sense. Data validation done. Okay, let's go to the next one. Get the face name. Please, no variable names in your return statements because nobody knows you called it face name. Normal English like comments in your at returns. Notice how in params I use the name of my variable because these signatures of these methods are available in the Java API. They are available. You can see it. So you say, oh, that's the suit she's talking about or he's talking about. But in return, you can't say face name here like the variable face name. Nobody knows what your instance variables are called. So normal English like comments, okay? The face name of the card. And that's all it does, return face name. Make sense? Notice the return type. Why is it string? Because face name is a string. Does it have any parameters? No, get methods don't have parameters. They only show you what's inside. So seeing doesn't require you to give anything. You're only seeing. Set requires you to give something because you're changing. Okay. Now let's set the face name. And this is the method I was thinking. Should I validate anything? What should I can validate? It can be, I can do the same thing, but it's from 2 to ace. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't like to use so many for statements. And I'm thinking if I can use enumerated constants. Let me think. Okay. So this method will do it better. Maybe I can do the other 4 ones also better. This method sets the face name of the card. So here the variable is called face name. To set the, and notice how I don't use it here in my comments. When I just say it English like, but I can mention it here in my param. In params, you have to give the name of your param. Otherwise, how will it say which is which? So you have to use the name that you gave in the param list. And at return, you don't say the name of the parameter because of the variable because nobody can see it. For now, I leave it, but I would definitely would like to improve it because the valid face names are 2, 3, 4, Jack, Queen, and so on. It's just a long one. I'm thinking I should use enumerated data types. I'll come back. Okay, I'll come back. I have to think of a better way of doing it. This method returns the face value of the card. Now this one is easy to write because it's a number, so I can write a relational operator and use it. The other ones I have 14 of them, 13. So writing them in a string comparison is kind of silly. We'll look at the enumerated data type in a minute. I'm thinking if I can do something, the face value of the card. Is it returning? Okay, so it is returning. Nothing to do in gets. Gets are easy, unless you have to format it, which we usually don't. But if you wanted, you could say get formatted face value. You know what I mean? Like you could do that. You could create more than one gets. But as per se, the normal get looks like this. Okay. Now let's do this. This one is easy because it's a numeric one. So this method sets the face value of the card after validating it. So again, param is face value. The face value, you kind of write it in the opposite manner, right? To set the face value. Oops. Okay, now this validation is easy. What do you have to validate? The face value must lie between 2 and 14. So this is a normal if statement. It's an int. So I don't need any comparisons. Okay, in the sense of long comparison. So if the value of your face is greater than equal to 2 and face value is less than or equal to 14. Now, I'll try to use constants here. I don't like any magic numbers in my code. I don't. So this is the minimum face value and this is the maximum, and we all know. Anybody who knows a little about cards? Okay, so if it helps me, I can do an alt enter and then maybe it says I'll include that constant, create local variable, local field in card, create field. Okay, I thought it would also give it a value. Okay, so I'm going to create a field, okay? For this one also and for this one also. I thought it would be intelligent enough to say create a constant. It's creating a field, which is okay. The only thing I have to do is I have to go back. So it is work, right? So I want to say private final. And we'll make it a class variable just because it doesn't make sense that usually constants are class variables. And what do you want to give here? 2. And what do you want to give here? 14. So no magic numbers in your code, please. These are called magic numbers. And you can say constants. You can say class constants. Why did I make it a class constant? Because every card needs it, right? They just need to use it. So why make it inside every class? You see what I mean? Why waste space? That minimum face value is 2 and maximum is 14 inside every card object. Information is global. All cards can see it. It belongs to the class. So all cards can see this information that the min face value is 2 and the max is 14. And that's all they need. They just need to use it to see it. Nobody can change it. So therefore, I made it static. I made them final because I want them to be constants. Okay. Now, if you have to make a change, you want to go 1 to 13 or you want to go 1 to 11, whatever. As I said, I'm not an ardent card player at all. But if you want to, we can do it here. Oh, see how it didn't find it because I wasn't using the convention and I'm making my own convention. Like, I don't want to create new conventions. Yes, Shane?
Why do you have those with capitalized?
Yes. Which was capital? Oh, the names of constants? It's a convention for constants in Java. All constants are capitalized. And since there is no other way to kind of differentiate words in a constant, we put the underscore. Okay.
Did you do anything with the set face thing?
Yeah, because my set face had a small f, whereas it should be a capital F. The name of the method, that's all I did. Oh, I didn't do any validation in it. No, not yet. I'm thinking of doing it a better way than ignores case. I'm sure there is a way. And I'm thinking put it in a enumerated constant and then say it has to belong to one of these. I'm sure it can be done. I just don't want to do it that way. And I want to do it a better way. Okay, so where were we? Here. So set face value. If the face value is between 2 and 14 inclusive, use it. Else, I won't put the round brackets here. I'll do a control F and it will put it itself. Else, what do you want to do? You want to again throw an illegal argument and this time change the heading or change the message. Notice, what is this message? Can you make an educated guess? I'm creating an object and this is actually that the constructor can take a string. So this is a constructor of the illegal argument exception. This is a constructor. New something means illegal argument exception is a constructor and it is requiring a string. And what it actually does, it sets the message. There is a message variable inside the exception object. It sets it to this. That's what it does. And what do I want to say here? I want to say card value or card face value, whatever you want to say, must lie between. And notice, I'm not going to use my 2 and 14s again. I'm going to use my percentage %d and percentage %d. It's a string. And then put a comma and then do what? 2. So min something was my constant. And max something was my constant. What doesn't it like? Maybe I'll have to make that string in Bring your mouse over it. No suitable constructor. Yeah, because I'm using formatted. I could say plus and plus and it will work. I could create a string. Okay, here, let's do it. Though it's not necessary at all. Okay, let's leave it here. I was trying to be a little smart and use string format, but okay, so here. Finish it here. This is a string for sure, right? Put a plus here. It needs a string. The argument needs a string. There. So I had to put, if I wanted to format it, though this is not bad. I mean, it's just, it won't take more space or anything. It will just say between this and this. If I wanted to format it, I would put it in a string variable first and then throw that message. It requires a string from me. It's not a big deal. Here, look it up. It's not a big deal at all. If you go to your Java API and make it a habit, always make it a habit. Go to Java API. Oh, you know what? It's just easy. That's 5.sc documentation, Oracle. Java Standard, Java Enterprise. Okay. Okay, and look for illegal argument exception. Illegal argument. Okay, let's complete it. Why is it coming up? Oh, there it is. Argument. I don't know. There. Notice the illegal argument exception is a runtime exception that comes from the exception class. That's what I was talking about. Exception has further children, right? One is the class of runtime and the others don't have a name. This is called runtime and we could call it non-runtime if you like. So this illegal argument exception is an exception and it has many subclasses. And if you go down and you look at its constructor, there is a constructor that takes nothing. You could have created it like this, but I always try to create one with a message so that when it prints on the screen, you see a message, right? You can always see a message. There's always a message and the throwable for now you can ignore. And you can always look at the message inside it, the detailed message. See here, constructs an illegal argument with the specified detailed message with no detailed message. So you always want to give a message as to what went wrong. That's what it does. And you can always look inside what the message is. There is a method that is available, get message, I think it is called. It's either called get message or message. C#, I think, has message, and this has get message, I'm sure. I think it has get message. And you can look at it. And I'll show you how to look at it. Okay, having come back, that's what I've done. So I've set my face value. Now, we'll also do the toString method. We'll make a habit of always writing the toString method. This method returns a string representation you can simply say this method returns the card information, right? So it always returns a string. At return it says, and you just say a string. It doesn't display. Specifies a string specifying, yeah, whatever you would like to say. Stop me if you don't understand anything, guys, please, because this is important. We are starting from scratch. You should understand. Okay, we'll do the at override so that if we make any mistakes in the signature, it's caught right away. So it's a public method. What does it return? String. It is called toString. Takes no parameters. Does what? Returns a string. So you can put it however you like. I'll try to make it something like, I don't know.
Are you going to be putting this on Blackboard once we're done?
Yes, once we are done, I will. Just remind me, this is not fully done. It won't be fully done everything, but we'll do it. Okay, so now return what? What do we usually say? Something of spades, something of this, jack of spades. Okay, so let's return face name of, and then the suit. Oh, if you want to go get face name, I said in usually it's not like, again, it depends on you. Like I don't use it personally because I say it's an overkill, but in toString I usually do. There. So That's the card's representation, right? Jack of spades, or queen of hearts, or two of whatever. I could create the strings 2, 3, 4 as in like names 2, 3, 4, or I can create 2, 3, 4. There are also number digits 2, 3, 4. Anyway, so that completes the card class. Anything else we can do with the card? No. So notice there is,
Somewhere.
sorry,
Throw it somewhere.
I can do it with what?
Throw it.
Okay, so that will do with our deck of cards, okay? Yeah, but as per se with a card, that's all we need. So we need setters, we need getters. I wrote a 2-string because it's just always a method that will get involved. But I don't think we need anything else. But definitely, I want to validate my face name. I'm thinking of enumerated and doing it. Don't want to waste your time because I'll have to try it out, right? And trying should not be done in class because it takes away students' time. So I'll try it and then I'll show you. But that's what I'm thinking. If I can kind of create a set, maybe there is a set type, put all those values and then use them. Okay, now our next step. So our card class is ready. Can't do much about with it because it's just a class definition. But if you wanted, you could just in BlueJ if you wanted to paste it and then start creating objects of it. You can see those objects. It would say it has this value, it has this, so on and so on. It will say that. Okay. Now my next step. I want to now create a deck of cards because we play with deck of cards. I mean, a card standalone is kind of useless, except as Shane said, throw it at somebody. You never do that. I mean, a single card has no meaning. You don't do anything with a single card. You always work with deck of cards. Now, so the next step is now to create a class for deck of cards. It's again a class. It's a definition. It has 52 cards, and then we do something with it. What something? We shuffle it. We deal them, right? We usually don't throw them, but with cards, right? That's what you do with cards. What else do you think you do? You play games, but to play games, you shuffle them and deal them, right? So that's what you do. So now our next step. Running any errors in card class? Any errors? Do you see? No, everything is okay.
I just got it. Don't worry.
Okay. One. What does it say?
Maybe I'm not returning anything.
What is it saying?
We are not
What
returning.
is your class called? And what is your constructor called? That's the problem. I called it card. I renamed it, right? So if you have a different name for your class, you will have a different name for your constructor. The name of the constructor is same as the name of the class. Keep that in mind. Okay? Any questions on card? We are okay? It was the simplest of classes that you created. I don't need any other method. We kind of all agreed there were only 3 attributes or characteristics of a card. And we said we'll write our getters and setters. We will validate everything in our setters, and the getters are only returning values. Clear in everybody's mind. Step number 2 now. Here you may have, yes, Brad.
Could you scroll back up to set face value, please?
I haven't done anything except setting it. Set face value. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I only copied some of the code.
Okay. It's just checking if the value is between 2 and 14. And notice how I use my constants everywhere. In my messages also. Please don't use 2 and 14 in your message. The purpose is lost. So I use it not only in my if statements, not only in my assignment, I use it even in my display messages. Right? It's not a message, it's not a display message, but in any messages also I use it. So that now if I want to change my face values from 2 and 14 to say 1 and 30, I do it at one place. I don't have to bother. I didn't use them anywhere else. So please do not use magic numbers in your code. These are called magic numbers because they don't mean anything. So if in my assignment it says no magic numbers, this is what I mean. Or in other words, use named constants. They are named constants. They're constants, but they have a name. So they make sense. So it has a dual use. It makes sense, and 2, value only has to be changed at one place. And making them as class constants makes sense because it's a constant. Every object will need the same value. So why duplicate it in every object? Remember, object takes memory. Memory means space. If you're putting 2 constants in every object you create, I'll create 52 of them. I'm wasting 52 into 2 spaces. Why should I do that? So I'll put it at one place. So in memory at one place, these 2 constants are kept, and all objects can refer to it. That's the use of static constants. So constants are usually made static, and constants in Java are written by using the reserved word final. Okay, so done. Let's now create another. Do I see a red squiggly? Control S. Okay, I'm good now. Yes.
I'm getting red lines underneath main face value and.
Yeah, because you didn't declare them as constants.
So I need to create variables?
Constants,
Oh, constants, yes, sorry.
right? So these are the two constants we created.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go now to deck of cards. Now this could be a little more than what you may be able to do, but we'll do it slowly and steadily, right? The first thing, how do you create a collection of cards? Now a deck of cards is nothing but a collection of cards. What have you learned in your programming fundamentals by the help of which you can create a collection?
Arrays.
Arrays? No, loops are a way to manage the collection. Loop is a construct that helps you to go through a collection. It's not a collection, right? Collection means a data type. It cannot be a type because it's a structure now. It's a data structure in which you can save more than one of the same type. That's a collection, okay? So you've done arrays, good. And we need 52 of them, so we are okay. We could use an array. Anything else you've used? More dynamic? No, that's multi-dimensional arrays. We don't need more than one dimension. We just need an array list. Now in Java, there are many collections. You have array at its simplest form. The use of arrays, or it's an advantage or disadvantage. Either way, for us we need 52. Our deck of cards will always have 52 cards, no more, no less. So we can create an array, and it will have exactly 50. We'll say we need an array that can save 52 objects of type card, and that's fine. That's one. With an array, a little more programming is required than it is required in another collection called array list in Java. An array list is dynamic. It can grow and shrink. We don't want that capability because we exactly have 52 cards. But we also have, it's a class that has methods by the help of which you can insert, delete, get, and so on. There are methods that are available. So it makes the life of the programmer a little easy. You don't have to manipulate yourself in the sense assign values to itself and then pick it yourself. I mean, I could show you both and you will say, oh, array list is just easy to work with. So I'll show you both. For us, looking at its use, we exactly need 52 cards. Array would be a perfect example to use. Array list I prefer just because it's dynamic and it's easier to use dynamic. Okay, so see the difference, and maybe I can show you both and then you can say, oh, array list makes more sense. So array is a static data structure. Its size is fixed, no more, no less. So if you say, give me 52 and you use only 10, the rest of the 42 are waste. Locations. Array list, you say, okay, I need another space, give me another one. I need another one, give me another one. It's dynamic data structure. So it grows and shrinks. Very easy to grow and shrink. You don't have to bother. It automatically does that. By getting, you get a value. By delete, you can delete a value. You can, I mean, it's all its methods are available, but it's dynamic in nature. With arrays, you have to write a little, you have to do a little more kind of how do I use a value? How do I assign it? How do I delete it and so on? So that's the difference. Array list is just easier to use. So why not use something easy? Though we only need 52. So that way, fixed size. But what's wrong in using a dynamic size if it makes it easy to use? Right? So it's dynamic. That's okay. I need 52. That's fine too. So it's not as I can't use it. So your next job will be now to create another class. And we'll call it deck of cards because that's what we are doing, right? We're now creating a deck of cards. So please follow Pascal naming convention again. Don't forget your convention. So I'm calling it deck of cards. Right? And what does this deck of cards do? It basically represents a deck of cards. That's what it does. It's a class that represents a deck of cards. So this class represents or designs or whatever you would like to say, or designs. The word is just designing, right? Represent a deck of cards. We all know there are 52 of them. Right, a deck of cards. We are talking about this deck of cards. There could be other cards with other games. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? Put in your name. Put in your sins, whatever you like. So we are sins on May 30, 2017. And add version. And we are on version 1.2. Okay, now we are, at least we all of us agree that we need a collection. We all agree we need a collection, right? And as I said, and that there is not only array list, there is hash map, there is tree map, there is a set. There are many more collections in Java, many more, all dynamic in nature. I'll definitely use the one that suits my purpose, right? A hash map actually has a pair. You can work with key value pairs, like a phone book has a name and has a phone number. There is where you use it. So arrays is a good enough data structure to work. Array list is as good as arrays with added capability of making it easier for the programmer to use. That's all. So array list is a class that belongs to java.util package. So if you wanted to create an object of type array list, you have to import that package. Okay, so let's try it and then it will give an error. It just needs a collection. And it's private, right? The type is array list. And you can call it whatever you like, but array list of what kind? It's a collection of what? A deck of cards is a collection of what? Integers? Strings? Objects of what type? Card type. So that's how you say it is an array list of cards. That's how you say that my deck of cards is an array list of cards. So you basically need a collection. I'm sticking to array list because I find it much easier to use, and you can call it whatever you like. I'm calling it deck because that's what we call it, deck. Any other instance variables with a deck of cards? Anything else that characterizes a deck of cards? Just this collection. There is nothing else to a deck of cards, just a collection. And we've already said a collection of what? Of card objects. And what is a card? We've already defined it. So card is a separate class, deck of cards is a separate class.
Is there like a counter or something for how many of each suit, like when we have?
We could make them as constants and do that. But you know what? A deck of cards will always contain 13 of each. So when we create a deck of cards, we are not taking this input from anybody. We just create 13 of each. So there's no validation. We'll write a loop that will automatically create, which runs from 1 to 13 and will create. And that's why maybe validation can be avoided on the other end, though a class must always validate everything. That's why I'm thinking of doing it there. But anyway, right? We always, a deck of cards always has 13 cards of each suit. So its constructor will only create a deck of cards with 52 cards, 13 of each. So it kind of takes nothing from the outside world. It knows what it has to. So this constructor will not require any parameters. So that's the only instance variable. Bring your mouse over it. It will tell you what the problem is. The problem is it cannot find the symbol. In NetBeans, do an array enter and it says create class or it says add import. You could create your own class called array list. Nothing stops you, but that's not what we want to do. So do an import and see at line number 4, I have an import java.util.arraylist, which you could have typed it in yourself. Nothing stops you if you knew it. And of course we knew it, but that's okay. And another advantage you will see is there is actually a class called collections in Java from which all these classes inherit, right? So the top class is called collections. From the collection comes array list, hash map, and so on and so on. There's a whole graph. And why am I using collection? Arrays will not even have that option. I don't know. I haven't used arrays as much. I've stopped using arrays since array lists. Like it was just easy. There is a shuffle method that shuffles for you. A collection. You want to shuffle the values in a collection, there is a shuffle method. There is a sort method that sorts it. So it likes never reinvent the wheel. So therefore I'm kind of going with collections and doing something that's dynamic so that I don't have to bother about all. Okay? We'll come to that when we need it. Okay, so that's my instance variable. Let's create a constructor now. What is this job of this constructor, guys? To create exactly 52 cards, 13 of each suit. That's exactly what it has to do. Okay, so let's do it. So now, I'll need some arrays. How do I do it? What do you think is an easy way of doing it? Let me try. This constructor or this method, whatever you want to write, it's a deck of cards with 52 cards. We all know that, right? consisting of, or you can put a comma. You can put a comma here, 13 of each suit. Creates. That's what it will do, and doesn't need anything from the outside world. So let's do it. Would it be easy? Okay, let's see. Okay, so a constructor is always public, has no return type, has the same name as the name of the class. My constructor doesn't need anything because my job is fixed. 15 cards, 13 each suit. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to create some arrays now because I'll use them. Okay, so I'm going to create a string array. It's a string array. You can put your square brackets wherever you want. I prefer it this way, then you can read it as a string array. So string with the square brackets, you can put it after suits also if you like, but string simply says that these square brackets says that it is an array. Okay, so what I'm going to put in this is the 4 spades, then comes down, doesn't matter what comes what. That's exactly what I was trying to do there. I can use an array also now instead of enumerated data type. Anyway, spades, diamonds, hearts, and clubs. There, it's an array. So to initialize an array, you can go equal to, and then you can give the values in curly brackets, and it automatically becomes an array of size 4. You could have said suits is equal to new array of size 4 and so on. You could have gone, but initializing it like this automatically makes it an array of size 4. This is arrays of fixed size. That is an array. It's not an array list. Okay, that's one of the array I'll use. I need to use another array. Let's call it face names. And what would you like to put in face names? Those values 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm thinking, what should I use? Shall I say 2, 3, 4 in words or in numbers? Maybe in words, if we won't confuse it with the other one. But both are possible. I can put a 2 here and it's a string. You know what I mean? Like both should, but they're both okay. But if you want to keep them as words, so just kind of please complete it. So go 3, 4, 5, 6. You can do your counting. Hopefully it won't be wrong. 7, 8, 9, 10. Jack. Oh, something missing. Oh, here. It's missing here. There. And then Jack, Queen, King, and Ace. I didn't think of arrays there. Anyway, and remember to close your closing brackets. So that's another, what doesn't it like, guys? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Jack, Queen, Ace. Oh, semicolon. Oh my God. Okay, there. So I've created an array of strings and I've created an array of face names. And so what I'll do is when I create my cards, I mean, this is not something that kind of will come out of the blue and you'll say, oh, that's how I created. It did take some work and some Googling and some cheating. Okay. How to create 52 cards in a deck of cards, 13 of each. It's not as if it just came, right? You have to think about it. And that thinking kind of led to this for loop, and which I'll give you. Now, what's my collection called? My collection is called deck, right? I've said it's a deck, but keep in mind the deck doesn't get created till I call the constructor of which class? Array list. You just can't use an object without doing a new. This is just a declaration. It is just saying, declaring that deck will be an array list. But have you created it? No, because you haven't said new array list. Objects are created only when you call the constructor. So how do you call the constructor? So don't forget that, otherwise the deck is useless. Go deck is equal to new. Like you create an object, absolutely like you create an object. Or what kind do you want to create? Array list of what kind? Card. And opening and closing brackets. Empty constructor, empty parameter constructor. So now your deck is created. It has nothing in it. It has nothing in it yet. It's an empty one. By default, for your information, it gets 16 to begin with, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. You can kind of assume it's defined now. It's not null. If I don't do this, my object is null. Deck is an object. It's an array list object. It's null. So you can't use it till you initialize it, till you create it. And how do you create an object? By calling the constructor. How do you call the constructor? New, the name of the class. And I just called it. It's new array list, opening, closing brackets, right? Now, here is the loop. Please copy with me, because as I said, it's not as if it will come out of the blue. I'm not sure if you've seen this. You have seen this for loop, but you're familiar with the for loop. A for loop does a job a certain number of fixed times. Say, where do I want to start? Where do I want to end? So a normal for loop, hopefully, if you've seen it and you remember it, if you don't, has 3 parameters. Usually, you can leave them empty, but it has 3 sections, you should say, not parameters. They're not parameters. There are 3 sections. You can leave all 3 empty. What happens? What is this for loop? Have you ever tried it? It's an infinite loop. Put it in your program and execute your program. It will run forever. Start nowhere, end nowhere, do nothing. It's an infinite for loop. You don't want to do this. Usually what you do, for example, if I want to print the first 10 numbers, I say start from 1. You say go on printing till I reach 10. And every time increment I will. You're saying where to start, where to end, what do you do? Right? And what do you want to do? You want to do a system dot, just giving an example. System.out.println. Suppose you only want to print I. What does this loop do? It prints numbers 1 to 10 in one word line. That's what a for loop is. So for loop has a fixed way. 3 parts. You can ignore anything. You may not write it here. Then you will have to write it outside. But you have to initialize your I somewhere. So it's the initialization part. Till where do I go on? The conditional part, which is basically could be any condition, compound or simple. And then the increment or the decrement part. This is a for loop in its easiest form. It's called a for loop. Another kind of for loop, very handy and easy to use. This is called a for each loop. It's called for, but it's called a for each loop, and is very useful when you want to iterate over a collection. Iterate over an array, which is a collection, over an array list, any collection, right? You say, oh, then you say for this. It will automatically start from the first element of the collection, go on till the last element of the collection, jump one at a time. It automatically does that. So you don't have to say start at the first element, go till the end of the array list or array, and every time increment it. Saves you. I'll write it both for you and you will see the difference. So this is what I want to do. I want to pick up one suit at a time from the suits. You could have called this anything, but what is it doing? This is like this. It's basically saying pick up one element at a time from the array called suits. Pick up the 0th element, then pick up the first element, then pick up the second, and then pick up the third. It has 4 elements, right? If I was writing it otherwise, like a normal loop, I would have to write it like this. I would have to say start from I equal to 0, go on till I is less than 4, right? And every time increment I up by 1. So which one is easier? The second one, because you're not bothering. You're not like you're just saying pick up one at a time from suits. Normal for loop and this for each loop. For each loop is used on collections, right? So it automatically will start from position 0 and will stop at position 3 automatically. Every time it will increment up by 1, right? So it makes it easy to write. It's just easy. And then what does it do? It picks up the first element, puts it in suit. So here, what does it do? It picks up one element at a time from the array suits, from the array suits and puts it in suit. That's what it does. It doesn't like this because I haven't declared it. Like I haven't declared string. I don't want to do these things on the fly, but there it is. Oops. So writing a loop like this, definitely you would prefer, I would prefer this. That's what it does. That's the for each loop. Works on collections. So instead of saying pick up one, and notice you're doing it yourself, pick up the 0th element, suits 0, suits 1, suits 2, suits 3, put it in the variable suit, put it in the variable suit. Here you don't have to say. So this is called a for each loop. I'll put this here again so that you can see it and you can appreciate the for each loop. And for each loops can only be used with collections because it knows where to start, where to end. Okay. Now, what do you want to do with this is different. Of course, that's incomplete. That was only these two lines are only doing this. So it's kind of replacing this for loop. But what you want to do inside, of course, is the rest of the data, right? So you can say rest or other computation or whatever, which of course I have to write in both of them. I'll have to write both of them. So please copy me, and this will create for each, it will pick up one suits at a time, and for each suits will create 13 members. Okay, it will create 13 members. So I need another for loop because I have to create 13 members. And when you know, you just create them. Start from I equal to 0. And then go on till, you know what, I can even do better. Okay, don't worry. Copy me, please. And I can't remember it myself, so I'm copying it too. So it's saying pick up one suit at a time, right? It's saying pick up one suit at a time. So it will pick up in this order: spades, diamonds, hearts, and clubs. And for each of them, it's an inner for, a loop inside a loop. For each of these suits, it will create from 0 to face names. So 0, 1, 2 till face names, because we start from 0, we go on till its length. Remember the length, it's not a method, therefore you don't put round brackets. It's a static constant of the arrays class, right? You're using an array. You're saying go till length. You can replace this also one by one, okay? I can replace this with the for each loop also. This way I'm showing you both. Now what do you want to do? You want to do this. You want to create a new card every time, of course. You have to create 52 of them. And here is where you will use your card constructor. Just copy me, please. Bear with me. Oh, what was the... You should have helped me, actually. What are you giving? Suit, name, and face value. The suit comes first. Suit comes first. This suit will be picked up from here. Then comes the face name and face value. Okay, then comes the face name. Right? And then comes the face value. And the face value, easy way. Why did I use this I loop? You'll know in a minute why I did it here, because of the value. I didn't create an array for the face values. So this will create 13 not, yeah, exactly. What is not CRAD? It is called card. That's why we have the red squiggly. It doesn't even still like it. Suit is coming from here.
I plus plus 2.
Oh, how can I do that? I plus 2. Thank you, Shane. There. So I create a new card. And what do I have to do with this card? I have to add it to the deck of my cards. So notice how easily I can do it. Deck was my array list. There is an add method. We'll kind of discuss this a little because this is important. In the sense, not that the loop is important. As I said, I only cheated the loop. That's not what is important. The importance is of what I'm doing. Doing with what? So that's one for, that's another for. What else do we have? Constructor. See, this way, if I should do it as I go on. This is your constructor and this is your class. There. You always should do it as you do it. Like you do an opening, put a closing and put a comment. Okay, now see what are we doing? Understand what we are doing. We want to create kind of visual. Let's see. The first job we did was we said we want to create an array list. And we called it deck. To begin with, it's empty. So this deck is an array list. It's the instance variable that makes up your deck of cards. Okay, so your deck of cards, this is the array list. Think of this as an array list. Okay, right? This is your array list. I called it deck. Now, what do you want to do? You want to create 13 cards each of every suit. So spades, I want to create 13 of them. Hearts, I want to create 13 of them. Create 13 of them. And then what am I left with? Diamonds, I want to create 13 of them. And each of these 13 I want to add to the deck. Add to the deck. Add to the deck and add. So deck dot add is adding to the deck. So there is an add method in the array list. If it was not this and I was using an array, I would have to do it like manually, like use the subscript and everything. This just gives an add. Now, how do I create the cards? Jobs that I do to create a card. One, I create a card object. How do you create a card object? By going new card. You have to do this 52 times. 52 times. Notice this is running 52 times. Outer loop is running 4 times. And for each of the outer value, the inner loop is running 13 times. 0 to 13. Less than 13. So 0 to 12 kind of, right? You have 13 cards. So 4 into 32 times it is running. So you are creating 52 new cards. Every time you create a card, but what do you want to do with the card? Let's start with, suppose, spades. You want to pass, for card 1, you want to pass spades, right? Then you want to pass a face name. Remember your face names? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, jack, whatever, whatever. So you pass 2. Right? And then you want to pass the value. Now I didn't create a value array because it is easy. I is 0, so the value is I plus 2. So 2 gets scored. My first card gets created. I'm still inside the inner loop. Spades, again a new card. Spades. What is its next face value? I has gone to the next value. 2 becomes a 3. Here I was 0. Oh, sorry, yeah, and here I was 1. I0 was 2, I1 is 3. And then what is this value? 1 plus 2. See, it's following the right procedure. So I create 13 of spades and then the inner loop stops. I go back to the outer loop. Now the suit has gone from spades to diamonds. Again, the same 13 things. Then it will go from diamonds to whatever. Again, the same 13 things. What will change? This will keep changing. Spades will change 13 times spades. Now 13 times diamond, inner things again. Again 13 times clubs and again 30 times hearts. I have 52 cards and my deck is now ready. So every time I create a card object, I put the suit in it, first attribute. I put the face name in it, second attribute. The sequence depends upon how we've written the constructor. It was suit, face name, and face name. And my 52 cards get created. For 52 cards, I have written a loop to do that job. Is that clear what you've done? Think about it. We'll repeat it next time. So a deck of cards is nothing but a collection. You could use any collection for it. I went with an array list because I can now use the add method. So I create a card, add it. Create a card, add it. Create a card, add it. What is happening at the end? My deck of cards is ready. I created arrays for the face value and the face name, but not for, sorry, face name and the suit, but I didn't for value because I was going to use that I. And now you see why have I used that for loop instead of the for each? Because I need that value of I for the value. That's why I used the inner for loop, didn't use the for each because I wanted that I. The outer one I used the for each. It's called a for each, but it doesn't come with the word each. In other languages, it also has the word each associated with it. So we'll stop here. I would highly recommend that you kind of go through it and do it with your hands if you want, like I did, and then we'll continue next week. Okay? Yes, sir.
So, just a quick question. Here, you're using this to create every single card.
Exactly.
Right? But why you're adding 2?
The I plus 2, when I is 0
Oh,
and your face name is 2,
mm,
the value is 2.
okay.
Then it becomes 3, then it becomes 4, then it will go till 14. Just a trick.
Okay.
That's why I said, like, you just have to think and you have to look for here, there, and that's fine. Now, if you want to go from 1 to 13 instead of 2 to 14, this will change. This will be I plus 1.
Okay.
That's all it is doing, right? See, kind of look at the array. The array is spades. Then the face name is 2, 3, 4, whatever. So that's I equal to 0. The value is 0 plus 2.
Okay.
That's I equal to 1. The value is 2 plus 1, 3. So I added 2 there because that's what I want.
Nice, nice.
Okay.
Please don't forget to.
I'll do it right away.
The code from the assignment.
I've already done. Solutions to in-class assignment is already up on Blackboard.
I want to recheck.
Yep. It's already on Blackboard.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. So this is still not complete, but I'll put it Bradley for reference, okay? It's not complete, we know that.
Yes.
It will change next week, but I'll put whatever I have. Let me save whatever I have and then, okay. चेप होने में भी बुराई तो नहीं है ना? कुछ सीख लोगे अगर सीख सको तो.
I wanted to say, because if you